Welcome to Utah Stories, a very important, exciting episode for you today. We've got coming on the show today Ty Bellamy. She's got to be the number one homeless advocate I've ever met in downtown Salt Lake City. She's down getting to know the homeless people, getting to know their names, their faces. She's giving them what they need. She has a nonprofit foundation called Black Lives for Humanity. And I met her just 2 weeks ago. I did an interview with her. We did a video on the program last week. And she is just a very, amazing person for what she's doing. She's getting to know homeless people. And I think that is actually the number one most important thing that these people actually need. They're not being listened to. When you start talking to them and you start hearing their story and they start explaining it to you and you're asking questions, you kind of begin to realize these people have not been listened to by anybody. And I talked to about a half a dozen homeless people today, maybe up to 10, and I'm going to be showing their interviews and sharing them with you today. It's just kind of an amazing hodgepodge of homeless people, their stories, their situations, how they ended up homeless, what got them on the streets, and what they believe the city could be doing to help them get off the streets. I talked to some people who were obviously mentally ill, who had some severe problems, and then I talked to some people who were incredibly articulate and intelligent, and just an amazing broad spectrum of humanity that you find out on the Rio Grande Plaza right now. If you weren't aware, it's NBA All-Star Weekend in Salt Lake City, and we really wanted to stream this show and get your comments and get people watching today, especially because this is the aspect of Salt Lake City that they do not want you to see. It's the seedy underbelly. It's they've moved everybody out of that's homeless out of the downtown core. The Salt Lake City police have been working overtime to make sure that all the people coming into town for the NBA All-Star Weekend do not see the people who are camped out on the streets, who are smoking crack and meth and other drugs, but certainly not all of them. It's a smaller percentage than you would realize. And it's just sad because anybody who lost their housing, was squeezed out of the housing market, who lost their job, who couldn't come up with rent, is basically labeled homeless, and they're trying to survive and make it with some people that have been hardened and homeless for 10, 20, 30 years. And you would think that the people who'd been hardened and homeless for 10, 20, 30 years would be the roughest characters, the ones hardest to be around, but that's actually not the truth. I talked to a woman today who has been on the streets for 20 years, and she's actually the person who a lot of the homeless people call mom, and she helps them with their problems. She kind of gets them food that they need. She helps different people of different levels of street smarts deal with the problems and the hardships. I asked her, so how are you doing this winter? How are things going? And are you freezing out here? And she's like, no, not at all. I know how to stay warm. I've been doing this for 20 years. This is like, I teach people how to stay warm. And she told me the number one thing that the homeless people actually need right now is not food, definitely not food. It's blankets and hand sanitizer, if you can believe that. Hand sanitizer is a major important commodity to the homeless people because they can burn it and they can stay warm throughout the night using it. And she says they use little sternos and they pour it in there and they light it. And if you know how to ventilate your tent properly, that is the number one thing they need right now. They also need socks. They need blankets. She said we've got plenty of food right now. And another thing that it's obvious that's happening is they're burning a lot of fires and using wood. And it's creating kind of a mess. She's trying to get them to clean it up. But before Ty comes on today, hopefully she's coming on. She's down there right now passing out food. She told me that she was doing that. She was doing a food drop. I believe she's on her way. But before we get to her, which could be in the next 15, 20, 30 minutes, I don't know, I'm going to go ahead and show you some clips of the people I interviewed today. But before I get to that, I want to tell you about our number one sponsor, which is Utah Stories Magazine. This magazine makes this podcast possible. If you want to support this podcast, go out and subscribe to Utah Stories Magazine. This is the original voice of local Utah. This podcast is the secondary voice of local Utah, where we go out and talk and interview people on the streets. We try to provide a voice for the voiceless. That's our number one goal here. Those who are not represented in the media, the stories, the people, entrepreneurs, business owners, farmers, homeless people, working class people. That's the voice we want to represent in the media. Those are the voices we're trying to capture. The magazine mission is practically the same. We recruit journalists who want to work very hard on tough stories, and they write for us. And they go out and write stories that are both fun, interesting, as well as where to go, what to see, how to stay well in Utah. We've got a winter wellness story here. This issue by Kelly Case. We've got a gamer's dilemma: could video games be causing young adults to be immature? By Francia Henriquez Benson. And then we've got the state of the city, which is the intro I wrote to this issue about Mayor Mendenhall's speech that she gave concerning the state of our city. And she thinks it's just great. I think she kind of misses a few points there. And then we did Laurel Dudley did an awesome story investigating short-term vacation rentals in Ogden Valley. And that story is really great. I think that this is a major issue that is actually exacerbating the housing shortage, and Laurel did an awesome job investigating beautiful Ogden Valley and finding out that there's some problems with vacation rentals there. Then we have a big profits in vintage shoes story. That's written by Dave Jensen. It's about this trend of young people collecting vintage shoes and them fetching like upwards of $1,000 for incredible shoes that were famous when I was growing up, like early Air Jordans, things like that. But anyway, check out our new issue. It's got a February fun guide. You can subscribe to the magazine on our website, utahstories.com. It's just $3 a month. We send it right to your mailbox every single month, and that helps support all of our coverage and the voice of local Utah. Okay, with that, let's get into showing some clips of my visit today on the island, it's been called, at Rio Grande. I want to start with a guy who just kind of gives a broad overview of what he sees as the problem.
I mean, basically, with the mayor
I'll play that for you. Are we ready, Troy? I'll play that for you now.
And on homeless shelters here on the city, $10 million fund that was supposed to go towards the mitigation of homeless shelters, instead of being used to that, they hired cops, bought them new vehicles, heavy artillery, ballistics there, gear and everything like that. Yeah, so basically, instead of helping us, it's almost like they're arming against us. They're trying to corral us into one place, and they're just going to herd everybody up and be done with us. And I'm...
Well, so I've heard the last couple weeks they haven't been harassing quite as much, I guess. Has it been a little better?
A little bit. I mean, I fell asleep on the side of a building last night and was pepper sprayed by a security guard when I went to go move to put my shoes on, after he was sitting there flashing his flashlight at me, to where if I had seizures, it would have put me into a seizure, and was laughing about it and purposely antagonizing me so he could do that. So I feel that there's definitely a very fine line between the people that want to help and the people that don't.
How long you been out here?
About a year.
Yeah. So only 1 year. Did you ever get a caseworker? Did you ever get somebody trying to help you?
Yeah. I'm jumping through the hoops right now, just waiting, But like I say, it's a process.
Yeah. Are you able, or any people out here able to try to find day work and get money? Is it possible?
Not really. I mean, not really.
Yeah, it seems like if you leave for a job, it would be hard to know if your stuff's going to stay safe, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
What's your name?
Terrence.
Terrence? T-E-R-A-N-C-E?
E-N-C-E.
E-N-C-E. Are you from Utah?
No, Chicago.
How did you land in Utah?
Traveling.
Yeah.
No more co-ed shelters. It's just a baby taking machine.
Well, thanks for talking to me, man.
Yep, thank you.
Yeah, check out Utah Stories. Do you know Ty Bellamy? She's out here giving away food and tents and stuff. And
Cool.
All right. So what he said there, Terrence, was there was a $10 million appropriation. I believe that was based on the pit count, the point-in-time count. And that appropriation, the homeless community, the advocates were getting excited that it actually might go towards a new sanctioned campground. And that was not where the money went. The money did go directly to the police. And everybody's upset about that because the police are there, it appears to me, to basically just harass the homeless, keep them moving, take their stuff down, move their stuff, tell them to move, throw away their stuff, bring in the health department. I think the police, I don't think any of the police officers in SLCPD are bad people. I think they're actually a lot of good men there. But their mandate is directed by the mayor, the mayor's office, and their mandate is abatements, constant abatements. Just continually be moving them. Don't give them any sense of security. Don't let any of the unsheltered people feel like they could possibly be comfortable. Instead, just keep them on the move all the time. And I think that's a terrible mandate to have if you're a police officer, if it says right on your car to protect and serve. If you're there to serve, that means that you should be helping the homeless get to a place of safety, to protect them and serve them. I think they deserve the protection and serving as well as anybody else. And they especially need protection from each other because there's a lot of wolves out there. And I want to show you a piece of an interview that I did on Nomad Alliance bus. It's unbelievable. This woman, I believe her name was Candy. I could have that wrong. But she talks about the Gerald E. King Women's Shelter, and I could not believe the way she described it. I want to play that for you now.
Can you say that again? Why a lot of you don't like the homeless shelters?
So a lot of us, nomads, homeless, the reason why we don't go to the shelters is not so much because of the rules, but because of the safety. There's no guarantee of safety. There's no guarantee of a bed. There's no guarantee of anything except their rules. My friend who had a bed at the great Geraldine E. King Center was assaulted last night and today was kicked out for 7 days. So she had a bed, a warm place to stay, was getting to a position where she could move to the next step, housing, job, stability, and now she's stuck wondering, where am I going to go? How am I going to keep my stuff? And I mean, she's having a really hard time. And so
And she was the one assaulted?
Yes, she was assaulted and was forced to leave for 7 days.
And what happened to the woman who assaulted her?
Nothing. She, when I left, she was in the hallway doing high kicks.
No kidding.
No kidding. And
so there's no kind of law enforcement or
No.
criminal justice investigation?
None. Women are getting kicked. A young lady, severely mentally ill, was kicked off the property for 60 days because she called the police because of a sexual assault.
Do you have her name that you'd want to share?
I can't do that without her permission.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Because I actually am investigating Gerald E. King. There's a lot of stories coming out of there.
Oh, you have no idea.
I should get your contact.
You have no. Oh, yeah, I will give it to you. You have no idea. It's very bad. I was almost assaulted in the shower. My own self. I was in the shower. 2 women, one on each door watching for people. They told everybody to leave. And another woman was getting ready to do a, for lack of a better word, shower party on myself. What she didn't know is I'm a little...
Awesome.
I know.
I just bought an RV, so...
Oh, kicking ass.
32-footer, so...
Okay, that we got a little bit interrupted there, but I've heard those stories over and over again that the women's shelter, the men's shelter, are the people there who are really just trying to find respite for from the streets to basically get a good night's sleep. It is absolutely impossible because there are so many mentally ill people in the men's and women's shelter, but especially the Gerald E. King Center. I find that I've just spoken to so many women who are out on the streets surviving in tents because that shelter is you're hearing screaming in the middle of the night over and over and over again from the ladies there who are completely mentally ill, and it just makes it impossible to get a good night's sleep, and then it makes it very, very difficult to get a job. And she basically says she has a job, and her job is she is a volunteer for the Nomad Alliance, and she goes out to all their events and helps pass out blankets and tarps and tents and food. And Nomad Alliance is actually doing a really good job at getting the essential survival gear out to the homeless people after the police go and throw their gear away. And I talked to Ksenia there too, who started this bus. I want to show you this bus and what it looks like. These men were on it getting warm, and about 5 to 8 people sleep on this bus, and it's quite a thing to see because there's a stove burning in the back. And I'm going to show you, let's see, I want to show you the interviews I had with the men on the bus now. Let's get to that.
You guys okay on camera, or you don't want to be? Okay.
I'm not anti-camera.
Cool. Have you been sleeping in here?
Yeah.
How is it? How is it in here?
It's pretty nice. They help out. They supply food and everything we need.
Seems like you could probably sleep quite a few people. How many people do they?
Usually like 5 or 6 in total. But by near the end of the night, we get people on and off like all night. Just coming in, getting food and drinking whatever they need.
Were you in a tent before you came on this?
No, I was sleeping outside.
Oh,
Just on, yeah.
Oh, that's got to be freezing cold.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
No, not me. It's busy.
How did you end up on the streets?
No, drugs mainly. During COVID, I got hooked on drugs, getting all that free cash. Family life fell apart. Ever since I've been on the streets.
And what I'm asking, like, what could the city do right now to help you get off the streets?
Me in general, probably get me back to where I was. I was in Oregon, so I ended up stuck here because I jumped on a bus ride with some chick and got stuck in Utah.
Never follow the girl.
Yeah, no shit.
Chicks, man.
Yeah, no joke.
So if you could get back to Oregon, you'd be in a lot better place.
Yeah, I got family there.
Oh, do you?
Yep. My sister and stuff.
Yeah. What's your name?
Charles.
Charles?
Yeah,
Nice to meet you. Rich.
Let's call me Charlie. Nice to meet you.
How about you? Do you mind if I talk to you?
Yeah, fine.
Did you stay on this bus last night?
Yeah.
You stay warm?
Yeah, it's warm.
Cool. What could the city be doing to help you immediately? Is there anything they could do?
Maybe more work programs. It's been more difficult this year than many finding a job. Based on what I'm going to trial for, not what I've been found guilty of. So I don't know. I'm not sure. The city has much more control over that than the temp agencies I've been going through, but. That's been my main issue being on the streets, is not being able to find work.
Yeah, and I don't know how you keep your belongings safe while you would go to work.
No, I've had duffel bags and backpacks and movie collections stolen on the streets during my sleep. Like I literally got tie things to me. It seems so. It's hard to advance when you just have people taking your things left and right, and you can't turn a blind eye for a split second.
Yeah, no kidding. So if you could go to work for long enough, could you afford an apartment? Would that be your next goal?
Yeah, I probably could.
Yeah.
If they went off of what I've been accused of, and I mean what I've been found guilty of, instead of what I've been accused of, that might help.
What did they find you guilty of?
I told a cop I'd tip him. They didn't find me guilty of anything yet. I told a cop I'd tip him $100 if he didn't enforce unconstitutional marijuana laws.
Dry your ass and
I explained several times it would be a tip, not a bribe, and he just kind of
there it is.
took bribery and ran with it, and I had no idea bribery is even a felony, and he would twist my words like that. So yeah, I've had staffing agencies say we can only let you do dishes a couple of days a week based on what you're going to trial for, which is the first felony you could be found guilty of. But luckily the prosecutor watched the footage and he decided they're probably just going to drop that one completely.
Yeah, so you could go work washing dishes, prep cook, anything like that right now if you could just get a job.
Yeah, I usually have had jobs for at least 2 years. I worked in lumber yards, and I worked inspecting airbags for about 2 years, and treehouse foods, doing all kinds of things, and it hasn't been as big of a pain until now.
Are you from Utah?
Yeah, born in American Fork, raised in Brigham.
Wow. What's your name?
Dave.
Dave? Cool. Thanks for talking to me.
No problem.
I'm showing this to homeless leaders.
All right. Yeah, those interviews were really fascinating. I thought especially Dave and Charles, two guys basically just stuck on the streets. They both want to get off. They both can work. But that ridiculous charge against Dave, he said he was going to give an officer a tip to make marijuana possession charge go away, and then the officer decided to increase the charge to a felony. So he's fighting that charge, and while he's fighting that charge, he can't take regular employment. And if he's convicted of a felony, he has that on his record for any employer to look at because he offered an officer a tip of $100 to just go away. Give me a break. And so what I find interesting about Dave is I spoke to a restaurant owner 2 days ago. He owns actually 4 restaurants in downtown Salt Lake City. Really nice guy. And I'd like to give a shout out to his restaurants: Fat Jack's Burgers, Christopher Sonoma, Southern Homecoming, Fried Chicken, all excellent restaurants in downtown. So I talked to Tony, and he said he is attempting, as a restaurant owner with other restaurant owners, to start a homeless recovery jobs program because they are in so much need of dishwashers, prep cooks, bussers right now. Like every restaurant owner I talk to in downtown Salt Lake City says the same exact thing. We could take so many more customers in our restaurants. We could serve so many more people if we just had more people working for us, especially like dishwashers. So he said he was getting jobs through a temp agency going to wash dishes. So that's what restaurants in downtown Salt Lake have resorted to, working through temp agencies to staff their dishwasher positions. But there's no program to just get these people who are fighting stupid felonies or stupid drug possession charges into working positions where they could actually be paying rent and they could actually be serving a very important function in the job market for all of these restaurants that are struggling right now. And I talked to the same woman who I spoke to before. I'm going to call her Candy. I think that was her name, about this issue. I was like, why isn't anybody thinking about like starting a jobs program for homeless people to just get them off the street and into some temporary housing instead of them all waiting for free housing? Because it's just like I wrote this little piece called "The Unwritten Rules of Homelessness," and I want to go over those with Ty if she's able to come. I hope she's okay. I hope she didn't get stuck. But one of the number one unwritten rule of being homeless is do not get a job. Every caseworker would probably tell you that if you were homeless. Do not get a job while you're on the streets because you're going to lose all your stuff. It's all going to be abated or stolen, or you're going to have to try to take it with you. That's number one. But the second reason why you don't get a job is because then you lose all of your potential benefits. If you show employment, if you show you're trying to work hard, then you are basically writing yourself off from getting any potential housing assistance, help with your with long-term supportive housing, disability assistance. I know a lot of homeless people try to qualify as having disabilities because then they're going to get SSDI, which is it's kind of the holy grail of getting a wonderful big check while you're still young from Social Security Administration. And so do not get a job is the unwritten rule of being homeless in Salt Lake. The second rule is come up with a victim narrative. Like a lot of these people, you'll ask them, why did you end up on the streets? And a lot of them just like that guy Charles said, oh, I started using drugs. I became a drug addict. It's my fault. I did it. And the thing I really like is when people are personally accountable. Like I'm sure a lot of homeless people had awful childhoods. I'm sure that a lot of them come from broken families. I know that. But if you look at the kind of hardship people are able to overcome in this world, it's stunning what obstacles people can surmount if they put their mind and their willpower to focusing on, waking up every day, slaying a new dragon, and getting the job done. And I just think there's so many homeless people who don't want to be victims. They say, yeah, I like I talked to that guy Cody 2 weeks ago. He's like, my family left. I had a series of bad events happen to me. I couldn't make my rent, and now I'm out here on the streets. They don't want to be victims. But as far as long-term supportive housing goes, you can only get that if you're chronically homeless, if you have a sob story, if you're able to share with them a victim narrative. And that's really preventing a lot of people from getting off the streets, is a lot of these caseworkers, social workers. I know they work their butts off. They do a very good job, but they want to support the victim narrative. Instead of what the Other Side Academy is doing is they're saying, let's get you into a job. Let's help you work every day for an employer. And then every day you get closer to recovery. And you sign up for a 3-year program through the Other Side Academy, and they take addicts and felons and they get them off the streets and they get them on the right path to appreciate their lives, appreciate the value of work, and it's a much better scenario and a much better situation than what you find people have available to them who are basically trying to work through the government systems. And so I'll share with you a couple more of these. And let me go find one now. Oh, this one. I couldn't believe this one. This was a girl who became homeless. I'm just going to let her speak for herself.
For 7 years.
7 years?
Yeah.
Wow. You're not very old. How long? So how old were you when you guys came
Like
out?
18.
How did that happen?
Well, my mom, I moved out of my mom's house for a little bit, and then I was just moving in and out, like continuously, and then she passed away like 3 years ago. So after she passed away, I went homeless for real. Like I went all the way homeless. That was like 3 years ago, and because my family couldn't really pay rent, and so my brothers went to live with their girlfriends, and my dad went to go live with his mom. And I just ended up at the hospital. And then when I got out of the hospital, I didn't have nowhere to go. So I ended up homeless. But I'm working on getting housing. But it's hard to get housing out here. Like, it's really hard. It takes like 6 months to a year. So it's hard.
Do you have a caseworker?
Yeah.
And they're telling you 6 months to a year?
Yeah. But at least it's only 6 months to a year, and I'll be off of the streets. It's hard for everyone out here to get on housing.
It's hard to find any stability at all, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So have you been able to get off the streets at all in the last 6 years?
Kind of go to the shelters or go to a friend's house, but that's about it.
Because you can't save enough for an apartment or a room?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I could, but I'm not supposed to work because of 4 years ago, I went through a situation where I was not. A bunch of people did something to me, and I came back too. And I wasn't able to I'm not able to work, so I have to take it easy on myself.
What's the reason you're not able to work?
So what happened to me when some group of people did something to me, and it was really bad what they did, and I was dead for like a week or so. I'm pretty sure.
Like in a coma or something?
Yeah, pretty much. I know where I went. I know where I went to, my spirit. But long story short, coming back to, I'm not supposed to like move around a lot, so I can't work too much. But that's why I have to get on housing where they pay for it all. So.
And do you think one day you could be able to work?
Maybe one day. I'll see after I get my place.
Mm-hmm.
But hopefully, it was nice talking to you.
Yeah, good talking to you.
Yeah.
Has it been better the last couple weeks?
Kind of. The cops, yeah, kind of.
They're not harassing you as much?
Yeah, not as much, but they still do. They're always going to. It's like they don't have nothing better to do.
Yeah, that's sad.
It's okay though. Yeah.
Have you got a tent and a sleeping bag and all that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's back there.
That's good.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, thanks for talking to me.
Yeah,
do you have a phone?
No.
Okay, well, this will be on Utah Stories eventually.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
So that's exactly what I'm talking about. I'm sure something terrible happened to her, and I'm not going to downplay that at all. But she said, yeah, they tell me I can't work. They tell me I can't get a job. That's not something I can do. That I've got to not work so I can get into housing. And I just think that's a horrible situation. Like, you're just sitting there in the freezing cold, day after day, nothing to do. You got a tent to sleep in, and you're told you can't work on top of that. I mean, it's that is, I can't imagine anything worse. Like, if I lived in a little tent, and I actually did in Europe, I stayed in a little tent for 2 months, traveling through Europe, and I had a job working in a bakery, and I loved my job. I would just go to the bakery, I'd put loaves of bread into a giant oven and pull them out, and work with the flour and the kneading. And it was like, that was wonderful. And then I'd get my breakfast in the morning, and then I'd have some money. I'd get lunch. I'd ride my bike around, and then I'd go to bed really early because I had to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I did that for about a month when I was in Europe. And it's like, to be just in that environment, there's all these sorts of people smoking drugs all day, and all sorts of people who just are in this limbo imposed on them by the government, telling them, yeah, I'm told I can't work. I'm told I have a really bad disability, and there's something seriously wrong with me, so I'm not going to work. I mean, the most in-depth homeless story I did last year was on, if you go back into our archives from last year, it was on a guy named Michael Sussman, and he believes he's very conspiracy minded, but he says he believes there's a conspiracy to just keep able-bodied people from working. He thinks that that's some kind of goal of the elitists. They want to have more people on the streets. And if you're told not to work, if you're told that you're disabled, if you're told you're nothing but a piece of trash, then how are you going to believe anything otherwise? If that's the system that's supposed to help you, and if that's what they're telling you. And I find that extremely sad because she's obviously articulate. She seems smart. I didn't see anything was physically wrong with her. I'm sure that everybody's got mental disabilities out there to a certain degree or another. But it was just sad to hear that, and to hear that story told so many times to me. So I want to play for you an interview. Before I start the interview, I want to show you this really cute puppies playing out in the homeless yard. This is just a short clip. This kind of introduces the next person I'm going to interview. Oh, you got wrapped around, bud. All right, cute little dogs. These are all like 3-month-old puppies. a lot of homeless puppies on the streets, and unfortunately the homeless dogs get treated way better than the homeless people. But this woman's name is Jurika. I hope I'm saying it wrong. Jurika. And this is my interview with her. Happening now.
Right.
And they moved you all here.
Chloe! Hold on, let me go over here. You can follow me if you want to, but my dog went over here. Chloe, come here. Do you have a media release form?
I won't get you. I'm only going to get her.
Come here, Chloe. Chloe!
Okay, that kind of sets it up where I was talking to Jurika while her dog Chloe was running around. I'm going to show you the actual interview.
I've only had her like 3 weeks, maybe.
Wow, where'd you get her?
Somebody actually brought her to me here on this block.
Huh.
Some guy dropped her off to me one night, and she's just been with me ever since.
Oh, she's super cute.
Thank you.
You know what kind of mix she is?
She's Australian Shepherd and Blue Heeler.
Huh.
Come on, Mama. Come on. Let's go. She just wants to play. Come on. Let's go get Dad. Come on, brat. Let's go get Dad. Come on. Come on, Chloe. Come on. Little
Gosh,
Mama.
I wish I had dog treats.
Come here, baby. Little brat.
I got 2 dogs.
Yeah?
Yeah, they're both older though.
Don't go in the street, Chloe. No. Don't go in the street.
So how did you end up out here?
I've been out here since my brother passed away. My brother got murdered in 2016, and so I've been out here since he got murdered, and I just want justice for him. But I guess I'm doing it in the wrong way, honestly. But because I have warrants and stuff, I don't pursue the situation for his case that I need to.
How was he murdered out here?
Yeah, out in West Valley on Christmas Eve in 2016 on my mom's birthday. He got killed out there.
Living on the streets?
No, he lived with his girlfriend out there and her kids and stuff, and he was shot out there on Christmas Eve, 2016.
Did they not investigate his murder?
They did, but I don't feel that I don't feel that he got justice, personally. I don't know the whole scenario because I only went to one court hearing, because me and my family, we don't really talk, but other than that, I don't feel like my brother was served justice because the individual that they say murdered him is out of jail. So I don't feel like it was justified, you know what I'm saying? If my brother got murdered, why is the individual out of jail? If my brother got shot, he's the only one who died that night. The person should still be locked up, I think. Because it's only been like 5 or 6 years since he's died. So I don't feel like my brother was, if he didn't get justice, I don't feel. Because
what do you think you can do about that?
I don't know. Like I know I gotta go up to probably like the 5th District Court to deal with it. But with having warrants, the judge ain't gonna, listen to my side or whatever. But I just feel like I feel like my brother got set up personally. And I just feel like they didn't investigate it enough because his girlfriend, she moved the van from the crime scene. She never got investigated, just stuff like that. And so I just...
Was it a lesser charge than murder? Was it like homicide?
At first it was a murder charge, and then they dropped it from murder to manslaughter and let the dude out on 5 years probation. I've already came across the dude out here that murdered my brother, they say. So it's hard, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's hard to deal with, honestly. So,
what's preventing you from getting into housing and getting a job right now, would you say?
Having warrants. I mean, I just got out of jail a couple months ago, but, it's just like they want you to check in and this and that, and just like having no residence is hard and stuff, and like my family, they got money, but my mom, she won't help me at all. And so, because I've used drugs in my life, and my mom has too, but at the same time, like she would help my brother when he was alive, and then she helps my sister, but she won't help me at all. So I don't know. I try not to ask for help because every time I've ever asked, I've always been turned down. So it's just a bunch of BS, I feel. So I just do what I got to do to survive out here.
And were you born and raised in Utah?
Yeah. Yeah, I was actually raised in the system, in CPS system, so yeah.
That's pretty common, isn't it?
Yeah, in and out, and then I lost my oldest daughter when she was 9 in Arizona, and that was about it. Because I've been out here off and on ever since. When I had my kids with me, I had a stable residence and stuff, but after I lost my kids and then lost my brother, it's just like I can go live with my mom, but I don't want to obey by her rules, you know what I'm saying? So I don't go live with her. So, because I feel like I should be able to do what I want. I'm 36 years old. I'm 36 years old and should be able to do as I will, you know what I'm saying? She's messed up in her lifetime, so she shouldn't judge me for the things that I do, I feel. And I feel like she does, so I just stay out here. It's just easier than dealing with my family's bullshit.
You lost your daughter to the system or lost her?
To the system, yeah. My oldest daughter, I lost her to the state of Arizona, actually. Boy. No, brat. I lost her to the system. So, I was a young mom. Like I had 2 kids by the time I was 18 and stuff. And my addiction at around 21 got the better end of me. And I started slamming dope instead of smoking dope, and so instead of me getting my kids back, I stayed getting high, you know what I'm saying, which is fucked up, but it's the God honest truth, you know?
Yeah.
So...
Well, that's not uncommon, right?
So, I mean, I can admit my wrongdoings for where I've been as a mother and stuff like that, but it's just like, it's that guilty feeling that's hard to deal with, you know what I'm saying? Because the guilt, it kills you inside, it really truly does. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know. Other than that, that's about it. So
Do you think there's
my kids are actually out here now, like, and that's the sad thing to say, you know what I'm saying? And no, I don't choose for my kids to do drugs if they do them or whatever, but my kids are grown now and they do what they do, you know what I'm saying, whatever it is. And I mean, we really don't communicate much, so yeah, like ever since I lost my kids, I don't really, my kids don't speak to me, so it's just hard.
How old are your kids?
18 and 19. So.
What do you think could the state or I don't know, churches or anybody could do to help stop the cycle of addiction and help people actually?
Well, addiction is gonna if it runs in your family or whatever, it's gonna be in your family. You know what I'm saying? It's gonna run in that line or whatever, and so it's just something. It's something hard. Like look at the community. You know what I'm saying? Like. I'm sure everybody does something in this universe in some way, one way or another, but it's like, that's how a lot of us stay warm out here is by using, and that's sad to say, but that's the God honest truth, because the warmth, the feeling that how it makes you feel, it makes your body's temperature stay up, and so that's why we're not dying, some of us, you know, and there's a lot of us dying out here, and it's sad. So, I mean, addiction isn't something that you should be proud of, but it's something that it does, having an addiction, it helps us honestly stay alive out here. It's sad to say, but it's the truth, at least I feel.
I mean, if you don't have a fire,
yeah,
but you
and like
they
cuss us out for getting fires and making fires if they're not contained right, but they don't want to help provide like the trash cans. Like I have a little one over in my nephew's tent that Advantage Services provided for us, that we use one of these little metal things. Mm-hmm. It's like this big, but they won't let us use the big ones. So I don't get it to contain the fires, you know, so we aren't getting in trouble for burning stuff, you know what I'm saying? But they don't want to help us be able to help ourselves, I feel. Like being able to build a fire is something that helps us stay warm, and I don't see what is wrong with it as long as it's not around brush or, you know, stuff that's going to catch fire too much, or at least you have something to put it out right by you.
Well, if it's in a life and death situation, like -4 degrees,
they don't care.
They don't have
care.
to build a fire.
I try to build a fire every night for at least whoever's walking through. If they don't stay in this area, they can at least come and stay warm, you know what I'm saying? And I don't care what the cops say personally, because I do it anyways. Mm-hmm. The worst thing they could do is take me to jail.
Well, none of the people other than the cops blame you for building a fire, I can tell you that.
Yeah. And, you know, like the cops, I'm like, well, I know we got rights as human beings, you know, like, They can't just, you know, there's certain protocols. Like if we have protocols, they got protocols. You know what I'm saying? If we got to stay in compliance, why don't they? Why don't they got to stay in compliance with the law of the court system or whatever? How can they do people how they do people, and it be okay? It's not, you know. But they still do it anyways because they're cops and they wear a badge, so they think they're better than us. And that's how I see it. I gotta go back over to this other dog, though. You can come with me if you want.
Yeah.
Chloe, come on. Come on, Chloe. Let's go. We're coming, Arrow. We're coming. We're coming. Come on, Arrow. We're coming right now. Come on, Chloe. Go play this Arrow. Go play this Arrow. Come on. Go play this Arrow. Yes, dear.
All right. Yeah, I mean, there was so much in there. I'll just go over a few of the points that she brought up. So homelessness, I find, is very intergenerational. Like there's a lot of homeless people whose parents were homeless, even grandparents were homeless. And it's what I'm finding is that, like Jerika, I think that her situation is not uncommon at all. She had children at a very young age. She couldn't keep the children because she was an addict. And so they were taken into Child Protective Services, and she was in Child Protective Services growing up, and never really had the type of parents who, I guess, could get her off of drugs. And it's a sad thing because her kids are now homeless, and so what do you do? I mean, what do you do? She's borrowing her uncle's car here. And I want to play that little clip for you, and I'll show you that in just a couple seconds.
So you kind of live out of your car and in a tent, both?
This is actually my uncle's car that I have, so I'm just using it right now to go do a couple of things.
Okay, so that was interesting because she's borrowing her uncle's car so she can keep track of her stuff, so her stuff doesn't get stolen. So obviously she's got some family members who want to help her out, and I find that is uncommon. A lot of these people don't have any family who want to help at all, and it's a very sad thing because they could be surrounded with family, but if they've burned too many bridges, a lot of them just are like, nah, I just, my family's given up on me. There's nothing I can do. So what is the answer? I've gone over a couple of possible scenarios that I want to run by now on this program. So I belong to a church. I go to the church. I've been asking everybody and telling people about these stories I'm running across and saying, don't you think we could be doing more as a church to help the homeless people? And I really appreciate like what the Second South United Methodist Church is doing. They're actually putting up 30 to 50 homeless people a night, and they're having a movie night. They're letting the people come into the facility, watch a movie, stay warm until it's time to go to bed, and then when it's time to go to bed, they can go out to either their tents or a group of them can stay there. We got churches everywhere along the Wasatch Front, and we've got church members and Christians. So I brought up the idea to another lady, why not have church members encouraged to volunteer to be a caseworker for one homeless person? There's a lot of like retirees and people who work limitedly who go to churches, and they don't need really more food. A lot of them get enough blankets. A lot of them, like the Nomad Alliance, is doing a great job providing the survival gear. I think they need more of that. They need more donations. But what they really need is somebody to listen to them, and they need somebody to take up their case and actually help them get help. And the next person I'm going to talk to talks about what she believes would be the solution to actually helping individual homeless people get off the streets. Let me prepare that clip in just 1 second. And while I do, I just heard from Ty Bellamy. She has been at the food depot all this time waiting in line. She said they're very short-staffed, and she's saying she can still come. So this is what I was going to do with her, show all these clips and these interviews and get her input on it. But I think what we'll end up doing is I will interview Ty, and you'll get her entire story and then her take on homelessness. But this woman I talked to, they call her mom, a lot of the homeless people, and her name is Johnny, Jonni. I'm going to play that clip for you now.
What's your name? Do you mind if I record it?
I'm Johnny. Go for it.
So what's happened in the last week since they've been moving you guys to this particular spot at the All-Star game?
People are still going on the sides, which they don't want. So I'm just waiting for them to come and do an abatement on us now.
Oh, all of the sides here, they don't want
Yeah, they don't
there.
want nobody on the sides. And they don't listen.
This is kind of crowded, though, over here, I'd say.
They have all of this space.
Oh, okay.
They have all of this space. There's no reason to be on the side. It just gives the cops more reason to mess with us. I don't get it.
Oh.
They don't listen.
So you're trying to get the people on the sides to move over?
To move in, because that's what's going to cause us problems.
Hi, Mom.
Hi, babe.
Yeah.
If they just listen and pay attention, we wouldn't, and clean up after themselves. I mean, it's common sense. Simple common sense.
Is that a constant struggle that just a few people really make the whole group look bad?
Yep. And the group is like right there.
Yeah. How are you managing to stay warm out here?
Actually, I've been doing really well. I've had no hand sanitizer. I have no here, but I got I got a good tent. Real air, it's air, whatever you want to call it.
Stays warm in there?
Yeah, it stays pretty warm. And during the day, and then at night, I just crawl underneath my covers.
And you're managing to not get frostbite and
no frostbite.
Okay. Way to go.
So far I have not ever had frostbite. Every year. I'm out here every year.
How long you been out here?
Over 20 years.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow. I heard her call you Mom?
Yeah.
Is that your
I'm
nickname?
A lot of people's moms out here. I adopted like 74 kids.
No kidding.
No.
And you help them all out, and you're like their surrogate mom?
Yeah.
That's
so to
pretty
speak.
cool. And is it like a family out here for the most part?
For the most part, yeah, we are a family. I don't really know what's happened in the last few years, but people are distancing themselves, and it's really hard. People don't realize how hard it really is out here. I've been robbed. I've had to start over. I'm starting over again now because I just got robbed last week. So
what did they rob steal from you?
They stole $125 and whatever else they wanted. And it's not easy coming up with. I don't work. I don't get SSI. I don't get food stamps. I don't get none of that.
Why not?
I don't know. The SSI got cut off between moves, so I have to start all over again on that.
It's probably hard to get your check mailed to you, sure.
It's just hard, period. I mean, I don't have a permanent address, so...
So you are the definition of chronically homeless. I thought they were putting all those people up in free housing.
Yeah, okay. Sure. That'd be nice. They've skipped over according to my caseworker, they have skipped over my name for 25 years.
Do you know why?
They have no reason, they have no idea why.
Huh. I'm having a bunch of the people who sit on the homeless task force.
Is that our mayor?
I don't know who that lady is. Why does it do that? That's weird. I don't even have a pod for it to be creeping like that.
I want the mayor to come out here and spend 1 week with us and see if she can handle it. Come out here with absolutely nothing. No money, no tent, no nothing, and see if she can handle it. It's not as easy as people think it is. The struggle is really, really getting harder and harder. Every year it seems like it's getting harder.
You said that there's more of a disconnect between the people here.
Yeah, I don't know what's happened to them. We used to be a really tight-knit family. Now they're stealing from one another, they're beating each other up,
Do you think it might have to do with the police constantly harassing people?
That and just, I know it's the signs of the times, and I get it, kinda, not really. But there's no reason why we should be stealing from one another or hating on one another. This is the time that we need each other the most. Absolutely the most. And
so you try to instill those values into people out here.
Right. They don't listen. Or they hear me, they just don't pay attention to it. They'd rather fight every day. Cause problems with each other every day. It's just the constant headache of breaking family members up, you know? The hate's getting hard, and I don't understand why everybody's hating on one another.
Yeah, that's sad to hear.
It hurts my heart because everybody used to be so close out here. Now they're pulling against each other, robbing from one another, beating each other up.
Are the people who've been out here for a while like you, are they by and large a lot more peaceful than the new faces you're seeing?
Yeah. It's the newer faces that's causing the problems.
Mm-hmm.
The ones that aren't familiar with us. And then we have people that do this. This is horrid. That's what gets the health department called on us. Trash. Garbage. People not picking up after themselves. It's simple. They supply garbage cans. Why don't they use them?
Where's the closest garbage can? Right here. Oh, right there.
How far?
Yeah, right there. Right there. Do you get it?
And there is even one on the other side of it, like right there. I'm not talking about you, honey. Honest to God, I'm not. I'm talking about the people behind you.
It's nothing personal. It's like it's the people behind you. But it's like
it causes attention.
Do you feel like that this the garbage is like people never learn how to clean up after themselves?
They know how to. It's just they don't want to. They live outside, so therefore they want to live as they're outside. They just throw it down.
Yeah.
And it's easy to pick a piece of garbage up and throw it away.
A lot of people will say the problem is lack of affordable housing. Do you think that's a huge part of the problem, or is that?
That and lack of caseworkers coming out here and talking to us and trying to get us help.
Mm-hmm. Do you have a caseworker?
So-called, but they don't ever come out here and check on us. They don't never. There's no way for me to contact them. I have no phone. They know that. If I do get a phone, they steal it.
But you do get a lot of donations, right?
A lot of donations. People come by and donate a lot of things.
I've been telling my church that what you really need are volunteers,
sanitizer. Right? I wish they'd just come out and give us an abundant supply of hand sanitizer. That keeps us warm. That's what we burn to keep warm. That and hand warmers.
Does that get toxic inside of your tent? It's a nice...
No, I know how to ventilate. A lot of people out here know how to ventilate. Hand warmers, I put them in throughout my bed. Keeps me warm. Especially the 18-hour ones. Those are the ones. We don't need food We have plenty of food. People come by and feed us all the time. The one thing that we need is blankets, socks, gloves. I don't think winter's any time over soon. I think we're still got about a couple months left of winter. So
what about sternos?
Sternos are good. They are really good. With the combination of hand sanitizer. If people can bring us sternos, hand sanitizer.
What about this idea? You have a lot of people who call themselves Christian who are coming out here giving you food and donations to other organizations that are supposed to give it to you. Like we heard on the state legislature spent $300 million on homelessness.
Where?
Yeah.
Where? Like, that is a joke. There's no way possible.
But the administrators, the top administrators, are getting over $100,000 a year.
Really?
And then their people working under them are also getting paid very well.
That's where it's going then, in their pocket, because we're certainly not seeing any part of that.
And they're supposed to provide you the caseworkers. What do you think of this idea? Maybe Christians and churches could step up by being volunteer caseworkers, and one person just takes on one homeless person.
That would be absolutely great, because there's a lot of people out here that don't know how to read and write. They don't know anything about how to get help. A lot of them don't. So they brush it off and pretend like so they can fit in. But a lot of them don't know how to read and write. A lot of Africans don't know how to read and write English. And nobody comes out here and volunteers to help them. If they're getting that much money provided, why can't we get a property so the police will stop harassing us? We know how to organize. We had it at Last Hope. I helped organize Last Hope. It was perfect. It was a beautiful camp. We had a donation station. We had a food station. We had a clothing station. We had buckets. We had a porta potty, but of course somebody ruined it for us on that one because it was a private. Somebody privately got the porta potty. It wasn't a honey bucket or nothing like that. But the first night we had it, somebody decided to start a fire in it. There goes the porta potty. Brain dead. Why can't
you would like to have a sanctioned campground? They've been talking about it for years. Do you have any idea why it's not happening?
I don't get it. Just because, yes, society has deemed us the worst of the worst. We're all drug addicts. We're all criminals. That is far from the truth. There's a lot of us out here that don't use drugs. But yeah, there are some that do. Don't judge all of us behind one person. When they did the Pioneer Park tent city thing, just because one person messed it up for everybody, that's not fair to anybody. That's not fair to the rest of us who don't do anything.
So would the most important part be security, so one person doesn't go and start a fire in the porta potty? And
security would be great. Like we had over at Last Hope. If they would have used that as an example, that was a perfect camp.
What about Fort Pioneer, which was about a year ago?
I don't know. Wasn't there.
It wasn't.
I was at a year ago. I was probably at Camp Last
I think
Hope.
I've heard better things about Last Hope.
Last Hope was a perfect setup.
And Ty ran that.
She ran it, supposedly, but we all organized it. I gave it the name. Because there's a little argument between Ty and Carl, which I don't think should be going on. They should be teaming up, really, because both of them have great values and great ideas. But Carl and Dave come out every Saturday and feed us. They cooked at Last Hope. Here comes Ty now. I believe.
Great.
Nope, that's
But they're not.
yeah, I mean, last hope, we had fires burning up and down the railroad tracks 24/7. We had people donating pallets and wood for us, so we always had wood. We had water, we had security. We hired our own security, our own homeless people for security, and it worked. The camp worked. Everything about that camp worked. We all ate good. We all got along. We all picked up our trash. That was a good camp. I wish they would do that again. The rumor has it that they have a property for us. They're just preparing it. Preparing it for what? I don't get it. Get us off of this. Yes, I get that people don't like seeing us out here. Well, then find us a property not far away from town where transportation is a big issue, that we all can go and organize it ourselves. We are really good at this.
What percentage of the people out here do you think would be working if you did have your own?
I think we all would work.
You'd all go to jobs and work?
We would all work.
There's a huge labor shortage in the restaurant businesses. All the restaurants in Salt Lake City say they need dishwashers, prep cooks, servers, waiters, or bussers. You think these people
could workers would come out and help them. Some of them don't know how to read and write. Some of them don't have credentials to get ID. I don't. Mine always gets stolen. So it takes time for a birth certificate to come to me. 6 months. So in that 6 months, I have to do what I have to do to survive, and it's not easy. I'm tired of picking up after wrong folks. I'm really tired of it. It's just...
So you're not able to get Social Security, food stamps, any of the government benefits at all right now?
Right now, no, because I don't have any credentials. I don't have no...
So are you waiting on getting your birth certificate?
Yeah, my old caseworker, I ran into her, and she's getting it ready for me, so... But I get the trash. This is the biggest thing right here. When people drive by and they see shit like this, I get it. I don't like seeing shit like this. I don't know why people can't pick up after themselves. That's a big issue. It's an eye catcher. How hard is it? Look at this trash over here. How hard is it?
You get after them?
All the time. And I just feel like I'm wasting my breath because they're not listening. They're not hearing. Because if they were hearing and listening to me, it wouldn't be like this.
So if you had a camp manager, you could enforce some rules and say you get kicked out if you don't.
Oh, yeah, that's what we did at Last Hope. You can't follow the rules, go. We don't need you.
All right, good news. I did hear Ty is on her way, and this is exactly what I want to talk to her about. What she would love is a sanctioned campground not run by the current homeless administration nonprofits that are out there, but a camp run by the homeless, for the homeless, where the homeless get to manage their own camp. I don't know if that has ever been done before, but what she's referring to when she talks about Camp Last Hope was there was a camp that existed on abandoned railroad lines at about, I believe it was like 900 south-ish and 500 west, probably right near the Granary District where it's at right now. And everybody talks about how incredible that camp was because the homeless just organically created it. And it was a camp full of tents and people who were cleaning up the area. They had sanitation. They had dumpsters. They enforced their own rules. There was fires, so nobody was freezing at night. Nobody died that winter. And I didn't get to witness Camp Last Hope from 2 years ago, but I witnessed another camp that popped up organically called Fort Pioneer. And that one was the one that if you were getting off the 600 South off-ramp heading towards Salt Lake City, you would see it just right there. And it was like 150 or 200 tents. And I was like shocked by it because it kept growing and growing. And then it was RVs and just all these people who were unsheltered and homeless people. And then that got so big, and I started going down there and talking to people. And that's actually when I first just realized this is a major issue here in Salt Lake, and nobody's really addressing it. And then when I went on vacation, that camp got completely abated. And the woman who was more behind that one was named Stacy Johnson. I later interviewed her. And she also said that a camp run by homeless people, for homeless people, enforcing rules, maintaining the grounds, being in charge of maintaining grounds is what they would like to have. But as you can see, the obvious problem is that a certain number of people at the camp don't want to pick up their garbage. They don't want to maintain it. I can imagine that some of them are various levels of having psychological disorders where they just can't function well enough to think about putting garbage in the garbage cans. But I think that the idea of letting the homeless have some say in the way their own facilities are being operated, that is something they absolutely do not have right now. And you can see that that's why a lot of them are out on the streets. And so if you've been with us earlier in the program, I played a clip from a woman on the Nomad Alliance bus talking about why she was staying at the Gerald E. King Center, but it was just such a terrible environment because so many people in that facility are women with severe psychological disorders, and you're sleeping next to people who are screaming out in the middle of the night with night terrors, and you might have just lost your apartment, and you maybe you still have a job, and then they're referring you to that center so you don't burn through all your savings spending $100 a night at the Motel 6 in town. And then you're trying to sleep at night next to people who are screaming out in the middle of the night. And that's supposed to be the best resource for people who've been squeezed out of the housing market. I just find it really tough to imagine how hard that would be. But I did hear back from Ty. She's coming, and she's coming on her way now. She'll probably arrive in about 15 minutes. But I want to play that clip for you of talking about the Gerald E. King Center, because that was at the very beginning of our program, because that's really what we're going to be talking about very soon. I'll start that clip for you now.
Can you say that again? Why a lot of you don't like the homeless shelters?
So a lot of us, nomads, homeless, the reason why we don't go to the shelters is not so much because of the rules, but because of the safety. There's no guarantee of safety. There's no guarantee of a bed. There's no guarantee of anything except their rules. My friend who had a bed at the great Geraldine E. King Center was assaulted last night and today was kicked out for 7 days. So she had a bed, a warm place to stay, was getting to a position where she could move to the next step, housing, job, stability, and now she's stuck wondering, where am I going to go? How am I going to keep my stuff? And I mean, she's having a really hard time. And so
And she was the one assaulted?
Yes, she was assaulted and was forced to leave for 7 days.
And what happened to the woman who assaulted her?
Nothing. She when I left, she was in the hallway doing high kicks.
No kidding.
No kidding. And
so there's no kind of law enforcement or criminal justice investigation?
None. Women are getting kicked. A young lady, severely mentally ill, was kicked off the property for 60 days because she called the police because of a sexual assault.
Do you have her name that you'd want to share?
I can't do that without her permission.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Because I actually am investigating Gerald E. King. There's a lot of stories coming out of there.
Oh, you have no idea.
I should get your contact.
You have no idea. Oh, yeah, I will give it to you. You have no idea. It's very bad. I was almost assaulted in the shower. My own self. I was in the shower. Two women one on each door watching for people. They told everybody to leave. And another woman was getting ready to do a, for lack of a better word, shower party on myself. What she didn't know is I'm a little...
Awesome.
I know.
I just bought an RV, so...
Oh, kicking ass.
It's a 32-footer, so...
Oh, bomb diggity.
It's a Rex Max, I think.
Nice. Yeah. Congratulations.
This is awesome, man.
Yeah, this is the bomb. 127 years?
No.
I don't know.
Okay, take a look?
Yeah, come on.
Sure.
This is the bus. Come on. If you got 2 legs or a weight.
Yeah,
like
let me get your contact info.
That's awesome.
Okay. Yeah, interviewing people affiliated with homelessness, you get distracted and then you kind of lose the train of thought and conversation. But what she was describing there, how her friend was kicked out after she was assaulted. And I mean, there's no way that anybody has any recourse who's at one of those shelters who gets assaulted by another person. And I think that's extremely problematic. And I'd really like to address that with Michelle Flynn, who's the operator of the road home. There's a general manager of both Gerald E. King and Gail Miller shelters. And those people I've talked to a little bit, but they just say, talk to Michelle Flynn. And just so you know, Michelle Flynn was scheduled to come onto this program about a year ago. I take that back. It was probably about 9 months ago. And then I had an inside source tell me about the Magnolia Apartments. The Magnolia Apartments were a $16 million permanent supportive housing apartments that were built right in the middle of downtown. If you know where Gormandy's Bakery is, it was just a really nice neighborhood, built kind of kitty corner down the street from Gormandy's Bakery. And those apartments were have quartz countertops. They have a balcony overlooking the city. I mean, incredible apartments, and they were built for the homeless. And there was a really nice kickoff and a great photo op that the mayor Mendenhall was in with Pamela Atkinson, where they were christening this beautiful facility that was to house the homeless in dignity, with dignity. And so now we flash forward about a year and a half after they opened, and what's happening inside of those apartments? I was just kind of like walking around the neighborhood, and I'm like, man, it just seems like there's a lot of drug dealer looking people around here now, and it was never like that before. And a lot of people like walking around, camping out in front of the Magnolia Apartments, and I'm like, what is happening? This is just so strange. And so we did a podcast, I'd say about a year ago, just pointing out this permanent supportive housing model, or housing first model. It just seems so odd, because you basically have to prove you are chronically homeless, and then you get on a list, and that list right now is between 3 and 6 years long. And then if you prove you're chronically homeless enough, or if you're mentally ill and or drug addiction, doesn't matter, you might get bumped to the front of the line, and they give you a free apartment where you don't have to work. It's essentially no strings attached, and you're just there in your apartment all day long. And what are you supposed to do? You're not supposed to work. And so what's happened at the Magnolia Apartments is it's just full of drug addicts, drug traffickers, sex addicts, or sex workers. And so there's drugs and sex trafficking going on all the time. And I'm told that by the administrator who works there. And I break the story, and then Michelle Flynn, director of the road home, says, I do not want to go in your program now. I'll talk to you on the phone. So I tried to talk to her on the phone. She didn't want to speak to me on the phone either. And I just was like, I'm a reporter. I don't report on anything besides stuff that I can verify is truthful. And not only did I verify that that was truthful, but Buchanan, what's his first name? The man who did the big statewide audit, James Buchanan, he verified that that is absolutely the truth. And now former Mayor Rocky Anderson has also verified that that is absolutely the truth. A lot of people have verified it. They've never told me that my story was untrue, but because I published that story, you won't talk to me. I just found that incredibly, I should say, authoritarianistic in her way of thinking. Like, because there's a reporter out there not going along with your narrative of, oh, the road home is so amazing, they're helping everybody, everything's great, everything's wonderful. No, it's just not true. There's a ton of problems with the permanent supportive housing model that need to be addressed. There's tons of problems with what's going on with our resource centers in those neighborhoods around the resource centers, absolutely deteriorating. If you've seen what's happened in the ballpark neighborhood, it's absolutely awful. They basically shoved the homeless people out of downtown Salt Lake City. The main area where the homeless have gone is they're in and around the ballpark on 1300 South. There was more murders there in the last 2 years than any other place in Salt Lake City, in all of Salt Lake City's history. I know that because Amy J. Hawkins, who's the ballpark neighborhood chairperson, she was on this program about 2 months ago talking about it. And it was like, as soon as that resource center opened up, that's the Gail Miller Resource Center, the neighborhood just started severely deteriorating around her. And she had bought a townhome there. She does medical, she's a teacher of medical students up at the U. And she describes that neighborhood in detail. And it's just awful to live there now. And you want to know why the Salt Lake Bees moved out of the ballpark neighborhood. It's because of that. They would not be leaving and going to Daybreak if that neighborhood hadn't deteriorated so much. And so it's just, these truths need to be put out there. Somebody needs to be telling the truth about the homeless situation, and that all of the mechanisms that the government is trying to use to solve the problem are only making the problem worse, are only exacerbating the problem. And that truth is not getting out there, because I don't know why the Salt Lake Tribune doesn't want to report on the problems, really. I don't know why they don't do a story about the Magnolia Apartments in Palmer Court. I spent just about 2 hours just in front of Palmer Court, which is the other permanent supportive housing facility right on 10th South and Main Street downtown. And I'm just sitting there in my car, just observing it, just watching the activity. And I absolutely witnessed a woman come out in this scantily clad outfit and go over to the small motel that's right next door and go meet a guy there, and it looked extremely suspicious. It looked like she was a prostitute who lives at Palmer Court, who is working during the day, earning money under the table, I guess you could say. And you cannot put people up in apartments where you tell them you can't work, otherwise you risk losing your housing. That's a horrible situation to put anybody in. Instead, what you should do is like the Finns do it. The Finns actually have the housing first model, and they have strict strings attached to the housing. They say you need to immediately have a job as soon as you get free public housing. You need to be paying rent as soon as you get that housing. You need to be understanding your rent's going to increase over time, so you're going to have to be working more hours. And they have expectations for all the occupants of the free housing. That actually makes sense. That's actually a good idea. But our housing first model is, let's have no strings attached. We're going to give you a house and you're going to work on your bigger issues. The problem is they have no caseworkers who want to work with these people anymore, because they don't make any progress at all. Because the way you work on your issues is by working. You need to get out of your apartment. You need to get out and go to a job, even if it's a job that sucks. And you need to go wash dishes. You need to go help all the downtown Salt Lake City restaurants who need employees right now. Go be a prep cook. I did that job for almost 8 or 9 months. I loved that job. I was a prep cook, and I go chop vegetables, and then I got really good at it, and then I was kind of like almost a chef. And then it built my confidence. I felt like I had learned a skill that was valuable in the marketplace. And I realized at 17 years old, I'm on my way to becoming a chef in a restaurant. And I didn't follow that path any further, but I absolutely felt way better as a teenager having that job and knowing that I had a valuable skill. I could dice tomatoes, I could julienne peppers, and I could prepare all this food for my cold line at the Market Street Broiler. And that's what gives a person confidence and self-worth. You tell a person they can't work, they're going to feel worthless. You give a person just a free government check every single month, and they're going to feel like they have nothing to offer the world. And then if you tell people that they have nothing to offer, then chances are they're going to use drugs all day. They're going to become more mentally ill. They're not going to be working on their big issues, and things are only going to get worse and worse for them. And so until Ty is able to come, she should be here any minute. I want to show you the interviews with these kids on the bus who absolutely want to work, who can't work because the situation in downtown Salt Lake City is that you can't possibly work if you're homeless because all your stuff will be stolen. The police will go throw it away. There's no way to secure your things. So getting a job is absolutely just a complete waste of time. I'm going to try to play that clip for you right now.
Yeah, if you don't, I won't show your face.
Yeah.
I'm definitely respectful of that. Nobody gets their face shown.
I totally don't care. I've already been on the news.
Cool. Have you been staying in here?
No, actually, I'm a homeless nomad volunteer. I'm staying at the Geraldine E. King Center. That's where my bed is at. But my nomad captains needed some help for the night shift, so I volunteered for a couple nights to hang out, make sure everybody's okay, keep it safe, keep it warm, keep it dry, hold down the fort and make sure everybody's got a little food in their belly.
This feels a lot warmer than out there.
Yeah.
I guess people manage to stay warm here, huh?
Yeah, well, luckily, by the grace of miracles given to man by other man, there is actually a little wood-burning stove in the back where we can cook food and warm ourselves and make hot chocolate. So it's really, really awesome.
That is
very
cool.
awesome.
And how many people sleep in here?
Usually it's
10 to 12.
10 to 12.
10 to 12. Hey.
Podcast.
Love
Oh yeah, this bus is so much fun, honey. Come in.
No, the smoke, I can't breathe.
Oh, do you want me to open a few windows there a little more?
No.
Okay.
Did you have one of those bubble milk things? The smoke things?
They're
You guys
right
okay
now.
on camera, or you don't want to be? Okay.
I'm not anti-camera.
Cool. Have you been sleeping in here?
Yeah.
How is it? How is it in here?
It's pretty nice. They help out. They supply food and everything you need.
Seems like you could probably sleep quite a few people. How many people do they?
Usually like 5 or 6 in total. But by near the end of the night, we get people on and off like all night. Mm-hmm. Just coming in, getting food and drink, whatever they need.
Were you in a tent before you came on this?
No, I was sleeping outside.
Oh,
just
really?
on. Yeah.
Oh, that's gotta be freezing cold.
Yeah, it's pretty cold.
No, not me. It's busy.
How did you end up on the streets?
No, drugs mainly. During COVID, I got hooked on drugs, getting all that free cash. Family life fell apart. Ever since I've been on the streets.
Wow. And what I'm asking, like, what could the city do right now to help you get off the streets?
Me in general, probably get me back to where I was. I was in Oregon, so I ended up stuck here because I jumped on a bus ride with some chick and got stuck in Utah.
Never follow the girl.
Yeah, no shit.
Chicks, man.
Yeah, no joke.
So if you could get back to Oregon, you'd be in a lot better place.
Yeah, I got family there.
Oh, do you?
Yep. My sister and stuff.
Yeah. What's your name?
Charles.
Charles?
Yeah,
Nice to meet you. Rich.
Let's call me Charlie. Nice to meet you.
How about you? Do you mind if I talk to you?
Yeah, it's fine.
Did you stay on this bus last night?
Yeah.
You stay warm?
Yeah, it's warm.
Cool. What could the city be doing to help you immediately? Is there anything they could do?
Maybe more work programs. It's been more difficult this year than many finding a job. based on what I'm going to trial for, not what I've been found guilty of. So I don't know. I'm not sure. The city has much more control over that than the temp agencies I've been going through, but that's been my main issue being on the streets, is not being able to find work.
Yeah, and I don't know how you keep your belongings safe while you would go to work.
No, I've had duffel bags and backpacks and movie collections stolen on the streets during my sleep. Like I literally got tie things to me. It seems so. It's hard to advance when you just have people taking your things left and right, and you can't turn a blind eye for a split second.
Yeah, no kidding. So if you could go to work for long enough, could you afford an apartment? Would that be your next goal?
Yeah, I probably could.
Yeah.
If they went off of what I've been accused of, and I mean what I've been found guilty of, instead of what I've been accused of, that might help.
What did they find you guilty of?
I told a cop I'd tip him. They didn't find me guilty of anything yet. I told a cop I'd tip him $100 if he didn't enforce unconstitutional marijuana laws.
Dry your ass
And I explained several times it would be a tip, not a bribe, and he just kind of
there it is.
took bribery and ran with it, and I had no idea bribery was even a felony, and he would twist my words like that. So yeah, I've had staffing agencies say we can only let you do dishes a couple of days a week based on what you're going to trial for, which is the first felony you could be found guilty of. But luckily the prosecutor watched the footage, and he decided they're probably just going to drop that one completely.
Yeah, so you could go work washing dishes, prep cook, anything like that right now if you could just get a job.
Yeah, I usually have had jobs for at least 2 years. I worked in lumber yards, and I worked inspecting airbags for about 2 years, and Treehouse Foods.
Yeah, that story is kind of indicative of a lot of the folks you find out there. I mean, but he said he would love to work. He said he's fighting a charge against him. He's trying to get off the streets, and he looks like he could take a job. He looks like totally capable of working in one of the many, many restaurants in downtown Salt Lake City, currently looking for dishwashers, prep cooks, anybody to help with the kitchen staff. And he said he would take that job in a heartbeat if there's any way he could keep his stuff secure. And with me on the program now is Ty Bellamy. And just a way of introduction, Ty helped organize the best homeless camp that's existed in Salt Lake City in the last 5 years, 10 years, I don't know how long, but it was called Camp Last Hope. All the people I've talked to who stayed there said it was the best thing to ever happen. They were safe, they were secure, nobody died. It was a camp run mostly for the homeless, without homeless administrators from the government. And it was a secure place to be. And Ty has since started a nonprofit called Black Lives for Humanity. She does tons of work for the homeless on the streets. She's giving them what they need. She knows their names. And I think that's the most important thing. She knows their names. She knows their stories. She's keeping track of them. Thanks for coming on, Ty.
Thank you for having me.
So glad you made it.
I know, me too. Thanks.
So you were in line at Welfare Square for a long time today.
Yeah, and they're short-staffed over there, so I had to hang in there to get some food for the people on the street. So
you're going out tomorrow to deliver food?
I'll go to the storehouse tomorrow and get those orders filled and take the food out so that people can cook for themselves and they can eat, and yeah.
Yeah, that's great. And so what would you say is the biggest misconception when it comes to the homeless in downtown Salt Lake City when you talk to the administrators and what they think is needed for the homeless compared to what they actually need and what could help their situation?
The biggest thing the biggest misconception is that they're all drug addicts. That's absolutely the furthest thing from the truth. And I always tell people that if there is an addiction, there's a root cause, and we've got to get to the root cause of the addiction. You can't just say, oh, they're addicts, and leave it at that, because people are not just out there getting high to have fun. And if you talk to people who are misusing, half the time they're not even using to get high. They're using to stay well. They're using to stay warm. They're using to stay alive. And some people listening will say, that's bullcrap. But listen, if you're like me, when I get cold, my natural instinct is to get up in a fetal position and curl up and get under my blanket and try to stay warm. They can't afford to do that on the street. They'll die. They will literally die. So when you've got to stay awake in these low temperatures, you need something that's going to give you the energy to stay awake. And unfortunately, it's easier to get speed, meth, clear, crystal meth. It's easier to get that on the street than a Mountain Dew out of the store. And so they're going to take what's available to them. And when you are on an upper, you are able to stay awake. You're going to be walking around. You're going to stay mobile. You're going to be moving around. You're going to do all the things, right? You're going to be packing and unpacking your stuff. You're going to be folding your clothes in your tent. You're going to be shoveling snow or sweeping the sidewalk. But whatever you're doing,
your body temperature is not going to drop.
Your body temperature is not going to drop because you are active. And as long as you're moving around, you're not going to freeze to death. You're going to freeze. You're going to feel like you're freezing, but you're going to be awake to talk about it the next day. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the times, depending on what encampment you're at, they will sleep in shifts. So you'll have some people that will sleep at night and others will stay awake. And then every couple of hours, they'll kind of give their buddy a nudge and, just to make sure that he's still awake or that he's still alive. And then they'll switch when he wakes up, when they, the people that are asleep at night, when they wake up in the morning, then the other people that have been up all night will try to get some rest. And it's amazing how they look out for each other out there. And it's heartbreaking that they look out for each other out there because nobody should have to be in this situation. Mm-hmm.
Earlier on the show, I played a clip of Johnny, who a lot of people call Ma.
Mm-hmm.
And
Love Johnny.
Yeah, she
calls me Ma.
Really?
And I'm younger than her. We'll talk about that later, Johnny, but yeah.
But she says that it is like a family out there.
Absolutely.
And it traditionally had been like that. Like they know everybody knows they're in a horrible situation, but they're to a degree watching each other's backs. But she said it has deteriorated over the last year or two, that a lot of people are getting more violent. There's a lot more fighting, a lot more garbage just being strewn about.
Absolutely.
What do you attribute that to?
I mean, let me take everything that you have right now, Rich.
Yeah.
I'm going to take your clothes. I'm going to take your shoes. I'm going to take your dignity. I'm going to take whatever you have because I got it taken from me. There's an abatement. I just lost my tent. I lost my blankets. I lost my sleeping bag. You were able to save your tent and a blanket. I'm getting you because I'm not going to be out here in the cold.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I got to look out for myself at this point. So I'm going to take your tent. I'm going to size you up and I'm going to make sure that I can overpower you and I'm going to take your tent. I'm going to take your blankets or I'm going to get one of my buddies. I'm going to promise him that I'm going to get him, something out of the deal. Hey, dude, I can get you high. I can get you something, but I need that tent. And I'm going to take it from you. And it's nothing against the other person. Mm-hmm. I just have to make sure that I'm good.
Hey, you're in survival mode.
Absolutely. I'm in survival mode.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're also, another thing is that we've got this pandemic and it's become the excuse for everything. And so you have people that are not able to get the medications refilled that they normally take to keep their mental health in check. Mm-hmm. And so if my mental health has been spiraling for the last 2.5 years of this pandemic, all my F's to give are gone.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Exactly.
My mental health is out of check.
Mm-hmm.
I've got to survive. I just lost everything that I had in an abatement. And I am in survival mode, and I don't care, and I'm going to do whatever I have to do. And if that means stepping on somebody who I just shared breakfast with this morning, if that means stepping on you, no hard feelings, dude. That's just the rule of the street. I have to survive. And that's why I get so upset when these abatements come, because they have no idea what they are setting people up for. It's not just you're taking their tent and their blanket and someone's going to be cold. Now you just set somebody else up to become victimized for what they were able to salvage out of this abatement. Mm-hmm. It's really sad.
So victimized by what they were able to salvage because
like I just said,
they just
I'm going to
collected.
take from you. I'm going to victimize you. I'm going to take from you because I lost out, and I need to make sure that
so
I'm
now,
good.
So now the people
you've
are going to be victimized.
Yeah, so
by the
now
people who
they've
don't
put
have.
you, Rich, in
Yeah,
a
I got it.
position to become victimized by me because I'm going to take your stuff. I need to survive, and that's why I'm like, what do you when you say that you're doing these abatements because it's a public safety issue, it's a health hazard. How's a tent a public safety hazard? How's that a public safety issue? Blankets, and I had an officer one time tell me, hey, Ty, you got to go over there and tell them to take those blankets down. They can't have them all over the fence like that. And I said, give me a break. It snowed last night. You guys made them take their tents down. And so the snow got in their tents. It got all their stuff wet. And so they're trying to dry their blankets out so they can have something halfway dry tonight.
Yeah.
And they're like, well,
I see that a lot. They're hanging their blankets on the fences.
Their clothes are wet,
and their clothes and everything they got.
And we do laundry for them when we can, when we have the funds, or if somebody's volunteering to let us use, hey, drop off their laundry, and and I've got a couple people that have said, drop off the laundry on my front porch. I'll wash it and I'll call you when it's washed, dried, and folded. But now that we're back into school more and people are going back to work and they're not working from home more, that's become more difficult. People don't always have the funds to donate for us to go to a laundromat or whatever, or we don't have the time to go to a laundromat because I try to stay out there, especially during the day when the police are out there more, so that we can kind of be their eyes for them. Because if they have witnesses, it tends to kind of push the officers off more. They're not so willing to harass people when somebody that, and I hate to say it, but when somebody doesn't have an addiction struggle or a mental health issue, can witness what they're doing and can speak up on their behalf, they're a little bit safer. So if I'm doing laundry somewhere for 4 or 5 hours, you know what I mean? When the cat's away, they might as well play. You know what I mean? So it's hard for us to sometimes get laundry done for them. So they've got to do what they have to do.
Yeah, you can let him down or let her down if you
sure?
want.
Okay, because she's nosy.
Yeah. So yeah, and the one thing she said too that really struck me was that what the cops are not understanding as well is like these people are freezing cold at night, and if they go walk to the Maverick to get a coffee, and they come back, their tent, their belongings, everything is gone. I met a guy today, just that he said everything he had collected for the last 3 months. He said he hadn't been abated for 3 months. It's all gone. And he said this plastic bag and this pole, he was playing with a PVC pipe pole. This is all I got to my name now. I'm trying to figure out if I could make a shelter out of this. I mean, how in the hell could you possibly find yourself in a situation like that and not go into panic, freak out mode?
Yeah. And I've worked so hard to just be diplomatic in this entire situation, to build bridges where there's gaps, right? And so I've had to build bridges with the police department because they're out there just as much as I am, and I've tried to build bridges with our government. I have built bridges, with members of the church, just so that not only are we able to get more help, but so people can really truly understand what's going on out there. And one of the most frustrating things is that our government, they're weaponizing the police against a very vulnerable population. And a lot of these police officers, they really don't like doing this.
They're not.
It
they're
hurts.
not, and they're not bad guys.
They've
given a terrible assignment.
They have been, and that's not in their job description. That's not. They're here to protect and serve. Period. And I've had some really candid conversations with police officers, and some people are going to be booing and whining and I really don't care. You have got to get along with people that are out there. Because we're all in the same community, and we honestly have some of the same goals as far as wanting people to be housed and be safe, and they're doing what they're told to do. You know what I mean? And trust me, I've gone the rounds with them too, and they're like, "This is our job." I'm like, "It's not your freaking job, dude." And at one point, I said this to an officer one day. I was really frustrated, and I said, "At what point are you, as officers, going to stand up and tell the mayor, the whoever's in charge of the PD, whoever's giving you these orders, at what point are you going to stand up and tell them that you're no longer willing to be their battering ram? When are you going to stand up and say, this is not right? You know, because, yeah, you have a family you need to support, but you're hurting other families out there. Mm-hmm. You know, what if I came to your house and I took all your stuff? What if I told you you've got 5 minutes to leave? You know what I mean? Or you're going to jail. What if I treated you like you treat them? Mm-hmm. Could you handle it? You absolutely could not. And I've challenged everybody, come out with me. Come out with me. I see other people that claim that they're advocates say this now because I've been out here saying this, but come out here with me and let me walk you through a day in the life of an unsheltered person. Come out here and go unsheltered with me for a week. Give me one night.
Yeah.
I'm not going to exaggerate it. I'm going to do exactly. I'm going to show you how they are treated. And I promise you, if you could have that experience that they have, you would change your mind when you are ordering these abatements. You would change your mind when you are calling parking enforcement out and having RVs towed and impounded. You would change your mind when it comes to you taking people to jail because they were asleep in an empty building or in an empty parking lot or in front of a building that's been abandoned for so long that, you know what I mean? The original color is no longer on the paint anymore on the building. You would think twice if you had to walk a mile a second in their shoes. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
That's what Johnny said to me today.
Yeah.
Is please, Madam Mayor, just come out here and see what this is like. Spend one day, 24 hours trying to live this way.
And you know why they won't do that? Because they know that this is inhumane. They know that this is not right. They know that they can't handle it, and they won't come and see what they don't want to fix.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Why do you think she doesn't want to fix it? Why do you think she doesn't just stop the abatement policy, have non-sanctioned camps until there's a sanctioned camp?
I'm starting to realize that anything that makes sense in Utah doesn't make sense in Utah. And I mean, to keep it real, I think that she's got a lot of interest here. I mean, her husband's a land developer. And a lot of the places where these new luxury complexes are going up, I don't know if his name's on there, but I'm just going to say I can see where it benefits her.
Her campaign was supported by developers.
Absolutely. So you don't want to you listen. You don't want to bite the hand that's feeding you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I just think that she's just not in touch. There's a lot of people that are not in touch in Utah. This reality of Johnny's and of many people on the street are not their reality. They're too far removed. Mm-hmm. And they don't, again, it's uncomfortable to see human suffering. And so I just think that it's just too difficult for her to face. She doesn't want to step on toes. And that's the thing with Utah is everybody wants to play nice here. Everybody wants to placate one another. A lot of people that work together, church together, and they have business relationships and they've got play dates with the kids and they've got all these, clubs that they attend together. And you know what I mean? There's outside relationships and nobody wants to be upset with anybody. Mm-hmm. They don't want to affect, partnerships and relationships.
Everybody's afraid to offend. Like I was
Absolutely.
Asking on the program earlier, the Magnolia Apartments.
Oh, Lord.
Drug trafficking, sex trafficking, full of just deteriorating the entire neighborhood. Why are we the only ones to write about it? Why isn't the Salt Lake Tribune writing about it? It's completely factual. James Buchanan has said on the record, he talked to the manager of Magnolia. The manager says, and I quote, "Everybody here does drugs all day long." Why isn't anybody writing? Why aren't we getting any press on this?
I can't speak for the Salt Lake Tribune because they have highlighted a lot of things in the unsheltered community. But I will bring that question up. But my thing is this, again, people don't want to acknowledge that because I know that Erin Mendenhall supported that a lot. She came out with and that was her thing. And she would have to admit that they didn't do it right. Yeah. They did not do that right. And to admit that you did something that failed, it's embarrassing. But the thing is we all know that it's not working. People need to understand that there's a difference between staff and there's a difference between people who know what they're doing. You can't just have anybody in places like this. And it can be fixed. It can be, but you got to get the right people in place. You've got to get people with thick skin. You got to get people that can't be bribed, that are not going to be intimidated. You've got to get people that are willing to do the right thing, and you've got to go in there and get a handle on this. My frustrating thing about the Magnolia is that people will look at that and they'll say, see, this is why no one wants to home the homeless. Look what they do. You give them a brand new building, brand new this, you do, and they crap all over it. They ruined it. See, it's their fault. This is why nobody...
The concept was wraparound services.
Sure.
And the wraparound services were supposed to be, you're checking in with a caseworker every single week, working out your bigger issues. That's why it's called Housing First. Mm-hmm. You're working on your drug addiction, your mental illness. But the problem is there's absolutely no strings attached. You're in that housing... especially if you don't have a job. If you get a job, I'm told, you risk losing that housing. So like rule number 1, stay in your apartment all day. Oh, what are you going to do? Just watch TV all day? Or you're a drug addict and you're told you're not supposed to work? And it's like, how are you possibly going to recover if you don't keep yourself busy somehow in a productive way? And I just don't understand the model. I've heard other Housing First models, they do require you work. Like you get out of the apartment, you work all day, that way your addiction problem or your psychological well-being is being worked on at work. And I just really struggle to try to understand that model. We basically carbon copied what they're doing in California, Seattle, Portland, and I just wonder, what are they thinking? Again, people are not doing it right. There's like I said, there's a difference between supportive services and staff. But my question, on the flip side of that is, yeah, they're supposed to reach out to their workers, but when you're dealing with people who've just come off the street and they're struggling with mental health or with addiction, why aren't the workers required to reach out to them? If I have an appointment with you once a week and I don't see you in the first appointment, I'm at your door. Hey, Rich, what's up? You were supposed to be at my office 10 o'clock this morning. Mm-hmm. Now it's 3 o'clock, like what's going on? There's got to be accountability on both sides of this. Yeah. We can't just hold them because they've figured out how to live life in a different way from you and I. Mm-hmm. And so they've got to figure it out, and they've got to integrate back into society. And so they're going to need a little bit hand holding. That's what a wraparound, that's what a supportive service is, correct? Mm-hmm. So if someone's not used to having an appointment and they're not used to having that accountability, because, where's the accountability out on the street? Do you see what I'm saying? How can I expect you to follow through and show up to the appointment? So we've got to, there's a habit building here. We've got to, I'm going to come. That's a process. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And of course, you probably can't work 8 hours a day if you haven't worked in the last 6 years. If you could work a couple hours. You have to be shown how to do things again. And then just slowly build that work muscle back up again. Just like how you and I were taught how to eat solid food from breast milk or formula. And then we were taught how to hold a spoon. And then we were taught how to go from diapers to potty train. And I'm not saying this to degrade anybody. Trust me. What I'm saying is that, yes, they've got to be taught. People need to be shown how, because how they're living out there on the street, they're in survival mode. You don't have to be in survival mode once you're housed. Mm-hmm. But we've got to have somebody show them how to come from survival mode and how to move back into, you know what I mean, mm-hmm. into normalcy. Yeah, because what I learned is I talked to a lot of these people out there were in CPS or through DCFS mm-hmm. in the foster care system, and all they know is survival mode. Absolutely. And if all they've been working inside of is that side of their brain, the back of the brain, that amygdala, like fight or flight, absolutely. And they're just ready to react and survive, to move somebody's brain to the front, and which is the more discerning, the more planning based part of the brain, that's not easy to do. It's absolutely not. It's like people expect you to get a set of keys and do it just like that. Boom. Yeah. You know what I mean? And then you're marked as, they don't want to do anything. This is why we didn't want to put our resources and our time. This is why and I know that, for example, I know that like the Other Side Academy, a lot of people have a problem with the Other Side Academy because they're like, they do this, that, and the other. But if you look at what they're doing, it is working.
they are teaching people, and that they get that confused with the village. But at the academy, they are teaching people how to function safely and in a healthy manner in society. And they are getting up, and they are required to go to work, and they have their accountability. They have all these things set in place. If I just give you a voucher and I get you off the street and I give you keys and I put you in this apartment and I walk away and I go, I did you a favor. You got housing. You're not sleeping out here on the railroad tracks anymore or whatever. I'm not doing you a service.
Yeah.
I'm not doing you. And like you said, if they have nothing to do, like old black folks say, idle time is the devil's workshop. If you put somebody in an apartment and they have nothing else to do, what are they going to do? But go out, and they're going to go back to the encampments. They're going to go find their buddies. They're going to continue to live that life. You know what I mean? You've got to show them. And so, again, there's got to be structure put in place. And when people have to do the same thing over and over repeatedly, they build that habit. And then when they have the support around them and they have the resources, they figure out that, okay, this is how it's supposed to be. Oh, I remember this. Then it becomes familiar to them again, because at one point they lived like this. And if they didn't live like this, then now they're being shown the way. Now there's a pathway that's being set, and they can follow that pathway. But you can't just leave people hanging. Even and that's why you see a lot of people that are getting sheltered. You'll see them sometimes start to return to the street because they got put in this apartment. They just got left hanging.
And I've interviewed people who have their housing, but they return to the homeless camps because that's where their friends are.
Or they lost their housing. Yeah. Or they've lost their housing. I mean, I've had people that I see them and I'm like, what are you doing back out here? You got a place. And they're like, yeah, well, and this is another thing. When you take people off the street as a caseworker, and these people that are running these apartments or wherever they're being housed, you have to understand what they've gone through. I've had people that have gotten into apartments after being out on the street for 7 years, went into an apartment, and 2 months later they're back out on the street, and I'm like, what's going on? And it's because they're used to being up all night, because they're protecting their belongings so that people don't come and steal their stuff in the middle of the night. And the neighbors downstairs, they're on the second, third floor in this apartment complex, and they're walking all night.
Jeez.
And they're walking because they're trying to adapt to being inside now. That's intimidating. When you're outside in the open and all of a sudden you're in this one-bedroom apartment or you're in this studio apartment, and if you have mental health, you feel like the walls are closing in on you. You start to panic. Your anxiety, starts to get, increase in things. And so you're pacing the floor. You're trying to figure out what to do with yourself. And the neighbor's got to get up for work the next morning, and all they hear is you constantly walking. So they're complaining to the management, and they're complaining, this person makes noise. You start getting notes put on the door. The noise, stop the noise, stop the noise, stop the noise. Before you know it, you've got so many complaints about noise that you're back out on the street because they've evicted you. Jeez. You know what I mean? Now you've got another eviction on your credit. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. You just lost your housing. And so people go, I would just rather stay out here. I can't function inside. I've been out here too long.
Yeah. So to back up a bit, so you've got the failing Magnolia. You've got the resource centers, which are largely failing. I talked to a woman about Gerald E. King.
Oh, Lord.
Man. This woman was assaulted today or yesterday, and she was the one assaulted.
By the staff or by another?
By another woman.
Okay.
And she was the one kicked out.
Absolutely. Oh, I've seen it before with my own eyes.
And there's no recourse she has. There's no criminal justice system in place. No. And so she's walking the street with this cart, and she tells me she's been victimized on the streets. She's been raped out there, and now she's back to the streets. And the woman who victimized her in the shelter is still in the shelter.
Oh, I've seen it before myself.
And these resource centers just sound like hellholes. They sound awful.
It's a moneymaker. It's a moneymaker for people. But and this is why I've always said.
But what's the solution? What do we do?
Again, you've got to get people in there. You got to get the staff out, and you've got to get supportive services in there, and you've got to get people that are willing to step up and say, you cannot do that to her, and they either don't do anything or they go to the extreme.
Do you think they intentionally kicked out the person who was victimized?
They play favorites in there. I'm not even going to lie. I've seen some horrible things. And this is why I've always said that anybody who owns a shelter, runs a shelter, whoever the top dogs are in these shelters, they need to do an undercover boss type of a thing. And they need they need to become a resident in their own shelter. Mm-hmm. They would be absolutely horrified.
You know, something that's really telling, Michelle Flynn was supposed to come on this program. We had her scheduled. Then we broke the Magnolia story. She canceled. Fine, whatever. But I learned her office is like 2-3 blocks away from the actual shelter. There's offices for her at the shelter.
Why isn't she in the shelter?
Why isn't she in the shelter? She doesn't even ever have to see a homeless person day after day after day. She can just go to her office.
How do you service the people when you're not with the people?
If you're not seeing them, you're not talking to them, you're not interacting, you're not there looking over your staff, how are you able to do that job effectively?
Again, people are far removed. They are far removed, and you should not be allowed to have an outside office. You said you were here for the people.
Amazon gave a grant
so be here for the people.
To the road home, and that's what they spent it on.
That is disgusting. That is absolutely disgusting. Man, I'm telling you, and this is why I say that anybody, again, if you're in a position to make decisions over people's lives, you should have to walk a mile in their shoes. And it should be, you know how some jobs you have to go through up training and get refamiliarized with the policies and all that, and then learn new things about the company you work for. Mm-hmm. This should be it. Every 90 days, every 6 months, once a year, she should have to go and live unsheltered.
Yeah, why
she
not?
should not be allowed to have an outside office, because how do you service the people when you cannot see day to day what their trials and tribulations are? What are their struggles? Mm-hmm. You're just finding out through a phone call? People sitting in offices should not be talking to other people in offices about the people in the shelters and on the street. You don't know what you're talking about. Mm-hmm. Your book knowledge is squat to me. I don't care if you have a bachelor's or a master's in social work or human studies. I'm out there on the street every day. I'm a better social worker, caseworker, psychiatrist, psychologist than anybody out here. I also have a college education, but I've learned more being out there, talking to them, being with them. I even lived with them at Camp Last Hope for 2 months. When you are in an intimate setting with people, you learn more than any book could ever teach you. And
let's go back to that. So you helped initiate Camp Last Hope, and you operated it. So what was your situation at that time? How did you start that camp? How did you get the idea? And then why did you live there?
What's going on right now? Abatement after abatement after abatement after abatement. Nowhere for them to go. Nowhere for them to go. Nowhere for them to go. So I was there, and I'm like, where are they supposed to go? This is disgusting. And I'm watching tents get picked up and blankets that we've paid for that are getting thrown away. And I'm like, they just got this last week. You know, like, what are you doing? And so I have a friend that works at a nonprofit over at the Restore, and she called her boss and said, look, this is a situation that's going on. They have nowhere to go, because when they were getting pushed off of 4th South and 5th West, they started to go under the freeway. And after some of them still had their tents, then about 2 hours after that, the police went over and said, oh, no, you can't set up here either. And it's like, where are they supposed to go? So my friend made a phone call to her boss and said, this is the situation. And they tried to reset up somewhere else, and they wouldn't let them. And so she obtained permission for everybody to set up camp on the private property over at the Restore. Oh, the problem was that because they have adjoining businesses, it couldn't be a long term. So it just had to be that night. But so we got them set up, got them food, just for everybody to decompress. In the meantime, we had a couple people that had been scouting out that area.
How many was it at the time?
At that time, there was maybe 25 to 30 people that stayed that night over the Restore. And then they said, well, we've been scouting this area, and there's not a lot of, traffic, not a lot of police that come through, and let's go down here. So the next morning, we loaded everybody up and took them to what became Camp Last Hope.
And that was 9th South and 5th West?
Yeah, about 9th South and 5th West. Yeah, right down there by that Black Rifle Coffee as it kind of curves around right under I-15 over there. Okay. And so the next morning, we went over there and got everybody, moved out over there. And okay, everybody, lay low, keep your heads down. There were businesses on either side, but the businesses are further back in their parking lots. And so it wasn't like they could be, disturbed by noise or anything like that. Just be good. And then I went home that day, And then I got a phone call the next morning as I was getting ready to go back out to check up on them. Hey, Ty, the police just came. They said, we're going to be pushed in another day or two by the health department. The police were over here taking videos and pictures of us. And I said, oh, hell no, we're not doing this. So I looked at my kids, and, you know, I've got, they're adults now, but at the time my youngest son was 16, 17. And I said, listen, I've got to go out here on the streets. You know, if you need anything, give me a call, but I'm not going to be home tonight, you know. And so I went out and stayed out, and it just became a thing because we kept seeing Salt Lake Police Department driving by like every couple of hours. And I'm like, why? What? Unless you're coming over to offer them a hotel voucher or a ride somewhere to a shelter or something, like what I don't understand the police presence here. They're not doing anything. And some of them were afraid, and they said, you know, they're going to push us, you know, I'm just going to leave. I'm going to go find my own way. And people left. And so at that point, we maybe had about 10 people. And then the police their presence kind of died down a little bit. And then I said, okay, I've been here for a couple of days and we're all good, so I'm going to go back home. And I didn't even get around the corner good enough, and boom, 5 cops showed up and started running their names for warrants, and somebody had been arrested and taken off to jail. And they called me, and I got back over there, and I said, well, they said, Ty, what are we going to do? And I said, scoot over, I'm moving in. You know what I mean? And so it was an abandoned, you know, railroad track. We set up fire pits down the track, and I started getting on social media and explaining what was going on, and asked people to help donate money or to donate tents if they had them in their garages. And we had independent, like ground level news came out and started live streaming what was going on. And just the community came out in droves. The media showed up and said, what are you doing? What's going on? And, you know, we had some other people that were over there volunteering, and these guys wanted a name. They wanted to name the camp. And so they said, we feel like this is our last hope. And so it became Camp Last Hope. And whatever we needed, I just got on social media and said, hey, I've got, you know, a guy that needs a size 34, 30 pants, and he wears a size 10 shoes, you know, and I've got people out here that are syringe users. And so, you know, I called my friends that were doing needle exchange at the time, and I said, hey, we're over here. Can you bring out clean syringes? We want to make sure people are safe, and we need to have the sharps containers, if you could bring some of those. And
wow.
By the way,
anything you needed.
By the way, I want to also make sure that if somebody ODs here, that we know how to save a life. And so people came out and taught us CPR, and they gave us Narcan and naloxone, and we learned all together how to use those things. So if someone overdosed, we could save a life. And it just became a thing. And anything that we needed, I requested. It was like the stars were in alignment. You know, God was answering our prayers. And before you know it, people started showing up a week later or 2 weeks later, looking for their girlfriends, their wives, their kids that they weren't sheltered with, whether it be biological family, because we have biological families out there that are in shelter together, or street family. And before you know it, it got bigger and bigger. And then we had people that were from the media that were just kind of watching what was going on. And so they would show up just to kind of document and see how we were putting things together. And they started conducting interviews with people. And it was amazing. And we had people that would just show up out of the community and say, hey, I live over in Glendale, and my kid was walking past here the other day home from a friend's house and said that there's a bunch of people living under here, and like, what's going on? And I would explain it to them, and they would say, well, how can we help, you know? And I'd say,
how long did it go on?
2 months. And they would come and they would voluntarily pick up the trash for us.
Wow.
Just throw your trash over, me and my kids will come get it every Monday. Or here's my number. If you need trash pickup, you know, more than that, come get us and call us, and we'll, it's one of my girls that's in jail calling, and we'll do whatever. And families started bringing home cooked meals.
What gave you the heart to start that, though, in the first place?
They had nowhere to go, Rich, and they still don't have anywhere to go. And I can't handle seeing people struggling and trying to figure it out. And I have a big mouth, and I'm really bold, and I figured, you know what, I've been doing this all my life, looking out for people in need, and I know that there are people that have canned goods that they're not going to get to. People have outgrown clothes. Their styles have changed. People have gotten divorced and need to get rid of their ex-husband's clothes in the closet. People have lost family members. I knew that I needed help, and I knew that they deserved the help, and you
just couldn't leave it alone.
Yeah, how do you leave it alone? How do you leave people out here suffering and you just walk by them?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? We're not remodeling a home. We didn't gut a living room and roll up a carpet and throw it out on the sidewalk and you just step over and keep going. These are people. You don't discard human life. And that's what's so weird to me about Utah is that everybody was whining about women getting legal abortions. You're worried about these lives that are not, depending on who you talk to, are not here yet. But yet you don't care about the lives that have already been born, that are out here on the streets, that are struggling to stay alive. Yeah. Like how does that make sense?
How do you reconcile that?
Yeah, so you just, like I said, I've been doing this all my life, and you just do what's right. And you just
well, it's like I thought this would be a 3-month project when I started it in November, covering homeless issues.
Oh, jeez.
And man, you just get into it and you realize this story is not
it's a rabbit hole.
And it just gets deeper and deeper and darker and darker. And
because there are people that don't want to stop the suffering.
Yeah.
Listen, Utah is in a really good place right now. We are not Portland. We are absolutely not California. We could get a handle on this if we really wanted to. We could get people housed. We could get supportive services. We could help people heal from their trauma. We can help people reintegrate back into society. We could really do a service to our brothers and sisters. But the powers that be don't want to do that. And when you see
because they're afraid of success, don't you think? Because success might be like it was in 2015 when they declared victory over homelessness, if you know that story. Mm-hmm. And then we got all this national press. Salt Lake City says they've solved homelessness. Then what did we get in 2016? Floods of homeless people. Because Housing First solved homelessness.
But if you look back, really those numbers were not as honest.
they were not accurate.
And so we really weren't doing Housing First. We really weren't leading. We really weren't doing all the things. Mm-hmm. But we claimed a victory that we really didn't have. And that's the thing, is they've been able to do that, and then now there's advocates like myself that are calling out the truth, and we're like, no, hold on. You really didn't go out to a camp of 200 and offer all these services and nobody wanted them, or you got 55 people housed, or that wasn't a thing. This is what really happened. Mm-hmm. You showed up and you walked right through with your little entourage. You didn't look at anybody. You didn't talk to anybody. You made an appearance for whatever reason and you kept walking. Mm-hmm. I remember when Camp Last Hope, we had when we first started, we did a protest at the health department. We partnered up with Black Lives Matter Utah because she was a big supporter of mine. I said, listen.
Lex Scott.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Lex Scott showed up to the health department and somebody tipped them off that we were coming, so they closed early. They had all the blinds pulled down and, you know what I mean, but they were peeping through to see what we were going to do, and we called it out for what it was, and we brought attention to it. And then that's what it is. We're not going to let you say that you're doing something that you're not doing. When we say that we've asked you for trash cans, but you won't bring them out, why can we not get trash cans? Like now, they've pushed everybody, the police have pushed everybody from camps from miles away, from blocks away. They pushed them all to one central location, the island. Mm-hmm. Now we've got about 200 people on the island, and we've got 3 trash cans. And these are not the trash cans that you have at your home to pull out at the end of your driveway. These are very narrow trash cans. Mm-hmm. The thing that they sit in looks big, but really the area where the trash is held is not very big. And now there's trash everywhere.
I saw a big dumpster like further down Fifth West, and I don't know if they can get in that.
No, it's locked.
Is it locked?
It's locked.
Oh, jeez.
It's locked.
Yeah, what a joke.
Yeah, you put a padlock or whatever you want to call it on the dumpster, they can't use it. These guys are set up for failure time and time again.
And it just seems like that for some reason we're just into fakeness and phoniness in Utah.
And that's why nobody's helping. It's not that they're afraid of success because they don't want more unsheltered people to come to Utah. It's because, again, they don't want to do what's right. They're losing money. if they do the right thing.
Well, it's like they spent the $10 million on the police.
Oh God, don't get me started.
And then they spent all this money on abatements. What do the homeless actually need? Oh, let's ask him. Oh, we need to be able to keep our stuff secure. Why don't they spend $1 million on lockers? Imagine what that could do.
That makes sense.
If you could put all your stuff into a locker and take a job during the day, and then take your tent out, and then secure all your stuff secure, like that would make sense.
It makes sense.
But of
Rich.
course they won't do that. Instead, we're going to spend $10 million on more police.
Yeah.
It's just it's so disheartening because
it is hurtful.
It just never ends. This money flowing into the problem, but the money being totally misallocated. And I don't know how you can convince people or the administrators that you're misallocating funds unless they go down there and talk to people, unless they listen to what they have to say, because I think they're just in their little echo chambers.
Absolutely.
And they all patting each other on the back. They all think they're doing a great job, like that homeless task force. Those people on that task force, there's one person who says public, what was the title? From a public person. Everybody else was like a legislator, was a homeless, was a mayor, a homeless advocate. None of them are previously homeless people.
Right.
Like, who knows on that entire task force what it's actually like to be homeless?
That's why I said it should be a part of the criteria for them to get into the positions. It shouldn't just be a vote in.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have walked a mile in the shoes of the people that you're going to be making decisions about, so that you can make well-informed decisions, safe decisions, healthy decisions. But when you don't know what you're doing because you don't know the people that you're deciding over, you're causing more harm than good.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But like I said, they don't care. If they cared, they would come out. The pandemic is an excuse. I'm like, put on a mask then. Come out. We're not asking you to shake hands and hug people if you don't feel comfortable. But come out and look at these encampments and walk up and go, you know what? They need more trash cans here. Let me get some trash cans here. Mm-hmm. And we're going to need a trash route to make sure that we can get these trashes empty. So let me go ahead and let me do this. Actually, these guys want to go to work, but they can't get their stuff. So why don't we at least give them a sanctioned camp? Let's go over here to, I even said, like, the Wiegand Center's got this big old wall. I'm like, why can't we build the lockers like the Amazon lockers or something on the back of this empty building? Mm-hmm. Give them large enough so they can put a backpack or two in there or whatever. But if we spent the money right that we could have resolved this. And this is when I was talking about defunding the police and everybody was going, nah. It wasn't getting rid of the police. People don't understand what defunding means. They thought we were saying get rid of the police altogether. Some people would like that. But there are times where we need safe police officers to make a situation or people safe.
Well, it's also like serve your mission on your car, protect and serve.
Absolutely.
I mean, if you're doing that.
So my thing is, and I say, listen, I'm the one that protects and serves. Where's my badge? But my thing is, when I was calling for defunding the police, I was saying take these funds. Don't keep giving additional funds. They're able to pay their bills and support their families. Take these additional funds and put it into our community that's struggling. If you go talk to these guys, Rich, they are plumbers and HVAC specialists and general contractors and construction workers and carpenters and masons. These guys are very talented. Mm-hmm. Some of them have built little tiny homes out there for themselves and just had them knocked down by the health department. But take some of this money and put it into them. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you used to do plumbing, and what happened? Okay, so you went through a hard time, went through a divorce, your license is expired, so we need to get you back into plumbing school so that you can get your license renewed. Here's the money for this. I'm going to contact the plumbing school. I'm going to send them the funds. We're going to get you back in. Now I want you to come around to these buildings with me because we got a whole crew of y'all. We're going to go to all these dilapidated buildings and we're going to have you check for asbestos because that's what you used to do, or we trained you how to do it. You're going to do the plumbing. You're going to do the electrical. And now it's sweat equity. But you're paying them also to go in and to revamp these old buildings because now guess what? Now they've just contributed to their own housing, right?
Yeah.
And so then when they're done doing all these buildings, now they can go and they can apply for jobs at Wadman Construction or Layton Construction or Oakland. Mm-hmm. Now you've helped them get back on their feet. Now they've picked up their skills. Their licenses are renewed. Now they're employable. Mm-hmm. They're clean and sober because a lot of them will say, and I wanted to start a landscaping business, and I still do. And they said, Ty, we'll get clean for you. We'll get clean for you. I use because I'm bored. I'm used because I'm depressed. And that's why a lot of them will come out and do outreach with me to other camps.
Yeah.
Because they want to do
I
something.
I talked to a restaurant owner. He's got 4 restaurants in downtown Salt Lake City. He would love to start a homeless to work program to come work in his restaurant.
Go.
He's like, let's do a program where they come work in my restaurant for 3 months. And if they show up for 3, 4, 5 hours, awesome. But let's get them off the streets. Let's get them clean. All the restaurants in downtown Salt Lake City right now need dishwashers, prep cooks, bussers so desperately. I mean, I'm talking to these people. They can't keep their restaurants open long enough to earn enough money to continue business, and so a lot of them are going out of business.
Absolutely.
This is the workforce right here out on the streets. Do you think that what is the incentive, or what's the reason why the unwritten rule of homelessness, rule number 1, is do not work? I mean, those caseworkers tell these people, look, you can't work.
Because if you make too much, Rich, then you don't qualify for certain assistance.
Yeah, but why make it like that? It becomes a huge
why make
snare.
It like that? Why are you punishing people for wanting to be productive?
Yeah.
Why are you doing that? And this is why you just need to make deeply affordable housing and not punish people for getting a job. So what if there's a family of 2 and the mother or the father, and there's a mother and a father, and she's making $19 an hour. Now she doesn't qualify for food stamps, but yet a dozen of eggs at Walmart's $9. You know what I mean? But now she's paying $1,800 a month for a 2-bedroom apartment. Oh, but wait, the landlord or the property manager just put a note on her door saying the 1st of next month her rent is being increased $500 additional dollars. Like, come on. There's got to be something. You don't punish people that are trying to do their best to contribute to society. All of that should be taken out.
Yeah, it's
you know what I mean?
It's this like, oh, we've got you now. But if you want to keep these wonderful benefits, you better not work.
Yeah.
You better try to find something under the table.
There's a punishment for trying to be productive. It's so backwards. That's why I said anything that should make sense doesn't make sense. And you, again, are causing more harm than good. So the incentive is what?
I think it's like you put people to work, you expect them to work, not work. And then as soon as they're able to work 5 hours a day instead of 2, you incentivize them more. Oh, guess what? You just received a bonus this week because you were able to do 5 hours. Then they're going to want to work 6 hours or 7. I mean, it's just like you've got the social strata, socioeconomic ladder, whatever you want to call it, that people climb in the free market. It's like the government wants to take that whole ladder out and put their own ladder in that only goes down.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and then you wonder why people are struggling. You wonder why mental health is mental illness is through the roof. You wonder why people are self-medicating. You wonder why some people are afraid to be housed because they don't know what it's going to take for them to have to keep it. And if I leave it, am I going to come back to it? I have people that have been housed and they say, Ty, I've been housed for 6 months and I still get nervous every time I come home from work to put that key in the door. I still hold my breath every time I turn the key because they expect that lock was changed while they were gone for that 8 to 12 hours.
Because it doesn't feel like theirs.
Right. And they're like, I've been on the street for 10 years, for 5 years, for 12 years, and now I've been housed for 6 months.
I had this homeless vet tell me, I was homeless for 8 years before I got public housing, but I'm still homeless. This is not my home. Right. I have to do exactly what they say to keep this home.
All these crazy inspections that they do, the property manager's got to come through, and now the bank is going to walk through with the property manager, and then you've got somebody else is going to walk through the property manager, and all this.
And I heard they look at your stuff, and if you've got new stuff, and then they think,
like,
oh,
where'd you get the money
wait
from?
a minute. What are you doing? Are you working too much?
Yeah.
And then you could get kicked out if you got nice stuff.
Listen, I've got somebody that didn't pass an inspection because they had ashes on their porch, and they got a 3-day notice to comply or vacate. Ashes because they were smoking on their balcony, which they can do in their apartment complex, but there was ashes on the balcony when they did the walkthrough.
Really?
So they got it the next day. They went to go leave, open up the door, and there's a 3-day comply or vacate, and they're like, what is this? And then they go talk to the property manager, and the property manager says, "Oh, you had debris on your balcony, and that's unacceptable." Debris, what was the debris? And the property manager had taken the photo of the arm or whatever you want to call it, of the balcony where there were the ashes from the cigarette, and said, "This is unacceptable." Like, my God. But are you doing this to Karen up on the 5th floor in the American Towers building? You know, are you doing that to her? Are you going over here to Altitude on 5th, and are you knocking on Becky's door, and are you getting on her for that? No.
Yeah, hell no.
But when people know, and that's the sad part about it, because you've got these caseworkers and things that are helping people get into housing, and so they're coming in, they're saying, we've got a guy that's coming in off the street, and he's coming in on a VOA housing voucher, for example. Now that property manager knows that you were just homeless, and now you're a tenant in my building. You see this? So there's another discrimination that comes in, because now she's watching every move you make.
Yeah, you know what it seems like to me? I was thinking about this. It's like the modern form of slavery, because no longer are you free to do as you wish. You are beholden to this higher institution who's giving your money, giving you housing, giving you everything you need, and it's not the free market. It's this organization. And should you say the wrong thing, should you piss somebody off, should you do whatever wrong, you're screwed. You lose it all. And I just think it's a modern slavery that has been created under the guise of helping people, whereas rather than helping people get independent and earn their own living again and make their own money
and make them feel safe.
Yeah, it's like, no, you come under our care.
Yeah.
You become our dependent, and we'll take care of you just so long as you do as we say.
Yeah, I don't know if I would compare that to slavery. But,
I don't know, but it's like this
it's
like this overseer. We're going to take care of you.
Absolutely, and it's being held over their head, and it's every little thing that they do. And I've even had people, again, that were housed, brand new apartment building, right over there by the public safety building, in there 2 months. And I'm like, what are you doing back out here? Because he was letting his friends come over to shower. And he was letting them come over so he could cook food for them, because now he's housed, and he's showing love to the people that looked out. And this is a young kid, early 20s, and he's showing love to the people that looked out for him. And they're sitting in the office looking at the cameras going, this is another homeless person that's going to apartment 6, another homeless. So now he's getting, stop bringing these people in off the street to your apartment. And he's like, I can't do that. And so they evicted him for it.
Wow.
So and this is why a lot of people say, when you talk to them on the street, they're like, I don't know if I want to be housed. Look at him, he got housed.
Well, it's like
and he's back, and it's scary.
How much freedom can you handle losing to get free housing? It's not free.
And again, they don't know the rules. They don't know that there's all these unwritten, unspoken rules, until it's like they're in this game, and the rules are being made as they go along.
Well, it's not like you're a slave in that you're working for somebody, but you're a slave to the system.
Absolutely.
And if you're not if you're not obeying, compliant with the system's rules, you're absolutely screwed. You're
absolutely going to lose, and you're back out on the street. And who wants to get excited about being housed if you saw your buddy just got housed 2 months ago and now he's back out here in a tent next to you? Why is that exciting for somebody? You know what I mean? And it's intimidating, and it's frustrating, because here on the other side, I'm over here trying to talk to people and say, you guys, let's and I've even at Camp Last Hope, I've taught people to not hoard. And so it's like, here, I'm going to give you this box, I'm going to give you this bin, and everything that you have, you're going to neatly fold up and you're going to keep in here. If you got to go real quick, if there's an abatement, you can grab this one bin and you collapse your tent and you're out, and then your stuff is protected.
That's great.
B, once you get into housing, they will even evict you if you live like this in an apartment and they do an inspection and you've got all this debris everywhere, then they can evict you for that too. And I want you guys to get used to living a different way, so that when you get in, you can keep it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's scary when you have to program people in a certain way, but you don't want to. And I went to a woman's house last week, and she had like 3 of her friends over. She'd been attacked by somebody, one of her friends, and so her friends came over to spend the weekend with her to support her through it. And I had to tell her, like, hey, I know that they're here to support you. This person who attacked you went to jail. They don't know where you live, but Your landlord knows that you were recently unhoused and just moved here. Your neighbors, I don't know, some landlords will run your business around to the other neighbors and say, keep an eye on this person. But I don't want you to have a lot of traffic in and out of your apartment, because this is what's happened to a couple of other people, and they've lost their housing and ended up back on the street. You know what I mean? And I hate that I have to have these conversations. And then she's like, oh, thank you for looking out for me, Ty. I'm like, you're safe. This person that hurt you doesn't know your address. They don't know where you live, so you're safe. So you don't need to have them here. You know, let them come visit during the day, but still don't have a lot of people over during the day, because the assumption then is that now that, oh great, now they're doing drugs in the apartment.
Yeah.
Now they're selling drugs out of the apartment. Now we're gonna have a whole bunch of homeless people coming over here all the time and hanging around the neighborhood, and this is gonna be a problem. So if we get rid of this one homeless person, then we don't have to worry about that. And so I'm finding myself having these conversations with people as they get housed, and it freaking sucks.
Yeah.
Because nobody should be told this.
Yes, and I just think that the solution is deeply affordable housing.
Absolutely.
You're not beholden to the government. Obviously, if we could have...
Don't give somebody something and then weaponize it against them.
Yeah, if we could have tiny homes for people, like tiny homes used to exist everywhere, and they were called shacks. And they used to be even in Park City. People used to live in shacks above the street, miners, and they were just little homes. And now we're trying to bring back tiny homes, but obviously NIMBYism is really tough to get through that. Thing. And man, we could talk about this so much longer.
And the zoning, and the zoning laws, you know, that whole thing, you know, zoning laws were set up to keep certain people out of certain areas.
Yeah.
And
zoning laws, Euclidean. There's a court case called Euclidean versus State of Minnesota, something like that. That goes back to when zoning laws started, and it was basically a way to keep the poor out of the rich neighborhoods. That was started in the United States. It spread to Canada, and there's a whole lot you can learn about zoning laws. But the way it is right now, we've got a lot of people who have plenty big yards who would love to have an ADU unit, but it would never get passed through planning and zoning because all the NIMBYs would just say, no, we don't want it. Not in our backyard.
You know, here's the thing. So I did some research on that, and I cannot remember the name of the place, but I remember at one point in City Creek, they actually had an ADU set up. And they were promoting, oh, you know, you can have this rental property and blah, 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 blah. But they were like $120,000. So I don't know if anybody ever invested them and got them. But if that's the case, it should be for everybody. Not just for people in Park City or in Draper or in Cottonwood Heights that want to rent it out for $2,500 a month to have additional income to send their kids to.
Why not give people a tax break who put an ADU in their yard for a homeless person or a person at risk of being on the streets?
Absolutely. Yeah. And if you're going to do that, even still, there still has to be supportive services. You know what I mean? For the homeowner that's willing to open up their yard, and for the people that are going to be living in that ADU in their yard. You know what I mean? Because they're still coexisting, you know, they're still cohabitating to a point, and people need to know what to expect and how to deal with certain situations, and there still has to be a relationship built between people. But absolutely, why not incentivize like that? But instead you've got people going, oh, you're a felon? Nope, you're not living here. Oh, you have this charge, or you have this conviction, or you have an eviction, or whatever. We've got to stop doing that, because by limiting people because of what they have, we're contributing to people being on the street. You know, I know somebody who is a felon because they had a broken pipe in their pocket. A broken pipe. And they got convicted of a felony, and that felony has kept them homeless for 7 years. And then when we finally got them housing, it was in one of the worst places. I was like, oh my God, I wouldn't even let my dog live there. Not even kidding you. It's so scary. It looks like something that you would picture out of the inner city of New York or something. You walk in there and there's people that are doing drugs in the hallway openly. The office to the man, I've never seen anybody in the property management office that's right there. You've got debris in the hallways. You've got God knows what that's smeared all over the walls and hallways. You've got people sleeping on the stairs. And
that sounds like project housing type.
It's called the Wendell Apartments. But you know,
really?
It's and I'll have to take you over there one time. Like, there's a couple places I just want you to walk through with me. This is where they're taking people off the street and housing, and why is this okay?
No.
You think just because they came off the street, or just because they're poverty stricken, that you can only limit them to these type of places? Who's gonna feel hopeful? Who's gonna be motivated to get up and go to work or look for a job or finish their education when they still have doom and gloom?
Well, it's like
them
you've got to put people who are still addicted to drugs and alcohol in a certain place where they can get clean. Then they could get into something like an ADU. and where that place could be. I mean, a treatment center that those just haven't worked. We had David Droscher, who runs the Other Side Academy, on the program. 90 days never works. A treatment program has to be like 3 years. That's what it takes to get somebody.
Addiction
clean
didn't
and
happen
sober.
overnight, so you can't fix it in 90 nights.
No.
You can't fix it in 180 nights.
Yeah.
You know, and so I definitely see where it's beneficial. I've referred people there. Because I see that their program works. And a lot of people, again, are against it because they don't understand the difference between the two, or how one is zoned for medication to be given and one is not. And you can't do certain things. That's why I always tell people you need to educate yourself on these programs, because they are absolutely helpful. They are absolutely helpful to people, poor Black people, poor white people, poor Latinx people, to people that can't afford to go to, you know, Pathways in Park City where Paris Hilton went or whatever. But they can go here and they can get all the services that they need, and they come out better, healthier, safer, contributing members of society.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can't just put somebody in there overnight or in a couple. I mean, they have like this, what is it? They go to like the 30 days, and I'm like, what is that? You didn't even scratch the surface of why you're using.
Yeah, those Odyssey homes, you see them all over the place.
Right.
I guess those are trying to help people get reintegrated, and they're getting a ton of money. But
that's the thing, is that they're getting a ton of money, but they're getting a ton of people that are recidivating.
Yeah, turnover.
Yeah, the turnover, and even at Camp Last Hope, obviously I didn't say you got to be clean to stay here, but when people have security and when they have support, they'll start to decompress, and they'll start to taper off on their own. Even if they didn't have a safe place, like I said, when I started talking to people about starting a landscape company, because there's arborists out there, and there's all these, you know, people that were out there doing that work. They said, Ty, we'll get clean for you. We'll do this. They had something to look forward to. And I said, yeah, you'd have to, because I'd have to get licensed and insured. And if there's an injury or something, we're putting our hard work at risk. And they said, no, we'll do it for you. We'll do it for us. And, you know, we're already starting to do this. You know, I want something different. I'm bored with using. I don't know what else to do. No one will give me a chance. I'm a felon. I've got a guy that's in his 60s. He did 35 years in prison. And he can barely read or write. And he's looking for a place to stay. And nobody will help him because he's a felon. And this man is almost in his 70s. I'm like, how harmful is this man?
I talked to a senior today on the streets who is his grandkids and kids come and visit him at his tent on the streets. And
I've had
it's
that.
like,
I've
just
picked
so
up
sad.
people's families and brought them to their tent, and I've taken people from their tent to DCFS for them to have supervised visitation. You know, and it's a thing out there. You know, I've taken people to work, and I've kept their tent and their belongings in my van while they went to work for that 12 hours. You know what I mean? And every day they've got to go set it up again. A lot of them do construction. I've worked construction. The last thing I want to do after I've been hauling lumber and hitting nails and all this, the last thing I want to do after working hard all day long is come home and have to pitch my tent.
Do you have a day job?
Is
this your whole thing?
This is my thing right now.
Yeah.
But I do work intermittently. My thing is, when I go to work, I'm getting phone calls. Ty, there's an abatement. Ty, the police are here. Ty. Someone got hurt. They need a ride to the hospital. You know what I mean? Ty, remember I have court. And I'm like, oh my God, you have video court and you're supposed to do it on my phone. And you know what I mean? And I hate to say this, but it was getting in the way.
Yeah.
And so I worked really hard. I worked overtime. I saved my money. And when I had a good couple of months of money saved up, I said, you know what, I can't do this right now. You know what I mean? Because people need me. And a couple of my bosses said, we love what you're doing. Whenever you're ready to come back, come back. And a couple of them went, for homeless people, you're going to quit your job? And I went, well, you know, I've got 6 months worth of income saved up, and I'll live out of my van if I have to. Because I also have a hard time asking for help. And so when these guys need a sleeping bag or a tent or sanitizer, I would rather just go and take my money and buy it for them, so I don't have to, because I don't want to burn people out on helping. I don't want them to go, oh my God, she's asking for money again for more sanitizer or for another tent, you know?
Well, tell people watching, how can they help Black Lives for Humanity, your nonprofit? What can they do?
In order to help me, I mean, really the monetary funds are needed, because I have people that have different kinds of needs out there, but we will also take donations of clean clothing, of tents, of sleeping bags, of blankets, of shoes, especially men's clothing. And you can find me on Black Lives for Humanity on Facebook, the group. I do a lot of posting and updating of information, things that are going on there. My Venmo is _fighting_queen. And it's a little fist, a black power fist. No, it's not racist. People are like, it's a winner. And I also want to clarify something while I'm on here. I've had a couple people say, I have a lot of people that want to help, but the name of your organization deters them from helping, because they hear Black Lives and they automatically are triggered because they're like, Black Lives Matter. And I'm like, yeah, Black Lives do matter. But my organization, Black Lives, simply says that it was created, inspired, and founded by Black people, for humanity, means for everyone, because they go, well, do you help white people too? I'm like, look around. How many unsheltered Black people in Utah do you see? Because there's really not a lot of Black people in Utah to begin with. But yeah, for humanity, I help everyone. And movement is we have to keep moving forward to look for solutions, to house people, to get them quality mental health and care and quality medical health care. So that's what Black Lives for Humanity movement is all about, just for people. And the Fighting Queen is just because I fight for everybody's rights.
Well, you speak the truth, and it's hard to find people who will speak the unvarnished truth about what is going on.
You have to,
but
we
because
can't keep sweeping
they silence
and the truth
you
under the rugs
and blacklist you when you speak the truth.
Absolutely.
And we live in this environment today, this cancel culture, where you have to be so careful about your words and the things you say and the people you might offend, and I think the truth really matters. Like to say that these people can go to this fancy office every day, supposedly be working for the homeless. Sure. And then we see everything deteriorating, and somehow we can't not speak the truth as reporters even.
Right.
And as a homeless advocate, you can't speak the truth. So I'm super happy that you were able to come on and talk about this and not feel hesitant, because other people are very, very hesitant to talk about this.
Well, and that's the thing is because everybody's trying to placate everybody. And like I said, they have relationships outside of work and things like that. But you have to do the right thing. And that's why I always say they're here for the paycheck and I'm here for the people. We're not the same. I don't have a filter. And you can't have a filter when you see people that are suffering. Mm-hmm. How am I supposed to deliver this to you? And how it's being delivered is why people are not getting the help that they need, because everybody's going, well, they choose to outside camp. That's something that the mayor said. They choose to outside camp. And I went, first of all, you always camp outside. Unless you're building a fort in your living room. But no one chooses. This is not camping. Camping is something that you elect to do. It's recreational. Mm-hmm. It's intentional. You make a plan. You go and you grocery shop for this. You make sure you've got the right fishing gear, and you gas up your Sea-Doos and all this, and you head out of town to get away from civilization. You want to decompress. You want to get away. They are surviving with the best that they can with what they have. And if you don't want them in tents, put them in buildings, and stop making them so expensive that they can't afford to get into them. Stop pushing them away from them so that you can erect them for other people. We can't, especially with the way the economy is right now, we can't be looking at credit scores and going, oh, you don't have a 720 or higher. You don't make 3 times the rent. You don't know. Get people inside. That's how you get them out of your way, if that's what you want to call it. Because no one's choosing to live like this. Build them a place to go, and then give them the services so that they can heal. They've been through a lot of pain, a lot of trauma. They're afraid. They're hurting, and they're begging for somebody to look past what they see physically and just grasp on to them, mentally and spiritually and emotionally, and just be there for them. They will do whatever you ask them to do if you are a safe person for them. Mm-hmm. And this is, people say, well, how can you get them to do this and do that? Because they trust me. They know I'm not going to hurt them. Mm-hmm. And I don't bring harmful people around them.
Yeah.
And I will fight to the death to make sure that they are all safe. Whatever they need, I provide. If it's a ride, if it's a service, if I can't get the service to them, I will take them to the service. I will continue to sound off, and I will continue to bring attention to people on the street, because this is a situation that Utah created, and Utah has to fix it. You took down the longest standing shelter, which you unhoused 1,100 people just doing that. And people go, well, they built other shelters. And I go, you know what? You can fit a lot of people in a Ford F-350. If you take that Ford away and you replace it with 3 smart cars, 3 little Geo Metros, you're not going to get the same amount of people in those 3 smaller cars that you did in the one big one. Mm-hmm. That's exactly what they did. Yeah, so you might have stuffed some people in the 3 smaller cars, but guess what? Some people are still looking for a bus pass, and some people are still walking.
Yeah.
And you got to come back and grab those people. You cannot leave them hanging like this. You did this. You need to fix this. And that's why they're not doing anything. It's not because they're afraid of success. It's because then they have to admit that they made some mistakes and that they did it wrong. And it's okay to say, oh my gosh, we screwed up. Yeah. How can we fix this? Let's talk to Ty, because she's out there every day. She knows the situation. She sees the struggle. Ty, what do you see? How can we fix this? How can we help? What can we do as government?
Yeah.
Those are the conversations we need to be having.
Well, you're the one who gets it better than anybody I've talked to, I have to say, for sure. I mean, I've had a lot of people on this program talking about homelessness, and you get it because you're talking to them all the time.
I'm out there.
And I appreciate you coming on. Unfortunately, I got to go because my kids
So do I. And like I always say, there's a difference between the activists and the actresses. And when you get people that pretend that they're out there and that they think they know what's going on, they really don't. And that's hurtful as well, because then they don't know how to convey the truth, and then the services, the help doesn't come. Mm-hmm. And I know what's going on because I'm out there. Yes. And
so if
come out and do outreach with me.
I will, absolutely.
Let's go.
I think that'd be awesome. I was out there for two hours today, and
I would love for you to come out and let me introduce you to people, because I think it's important for you to hear it from the horse's mouth. Mm-hmm. And I think that the more people see people talking about how they ended up out there on the street and why they're still stuck, I think it will educate people. And I think that, I mean, obviously knowledge is power. Knowledge is key. When people really understand the truth, their thinking shifts. And that's what needs to happen. We need to have a shift in the thinking. Put away everything that you've heard, that you've learned, that you've assumed about people that you don't know about. Open up your mind and let us show you the truth. So come out. Let's go. Let's make
absolutely.
it happen.
Yeah, I'd love to go out and meet more of these people, because they're
amazing.
All characters. They're all amazing. They all have
they are beautiful. They are funny.
A story, and it just seems like they're
articulate.
They need
creative.
Somebody to listen and care and be involved.
Absolutely,
and I think it's more volunteers willing to take up one person under their wing and say, "Hey, what can I do to help you?" And if more churches would just step forward and say, "Let's adopt as like a retired couple, one homeless person we can help." Let's listen to them. Let's give them what they need. Let's get them back on their feet and what they need. And you can't help everybody. I mean, we've tried.
And there's going to be some people out there, but it's not even just the unsheltered people. I said this a couple months on my. I'll say this and then we can go. A couple months ago on my Facebook page, I said I would love to. I'm all about bridging the gaps. I would love to bring people from different backgrounds together. I've got women that have been in prison, that have done drugs, that have sold drugs, that have been trafficked, that have prostituted, that have gone through things, and now they're working. They're general managers at fast food restaurants, and they've had 3 promotions in 2 months, and they got their kids back from the state, and they're living to the best of their ability. But imagine if somebody came that is from Draper or Park City or Riverton, and they kind of become a buddy with them, and they just kind of spend time with them, kind of a mentor, if you will. Mm-hmm. And just kind of, because one time somebody told me in my life, surround yourself with the people that have what you want, and it will motivate you to get it. Mm-hmm. And that's a true thing. And you look at these Title I schools, and I remember when my son was going to school in Draper when he was staying with his dad. He was given an iPad in 5th grade to do his homework on, and I thought, that'd be awesome if the kids in Rose Park could get that same type of technology to do their work on. How much more advanced would they be? What if we got the kids from Canyon Corner or Corner Canyon or whatever to come down and hook up with the kids at Northwest Junior High, and they kind of did this buddy system tutoring thing or whatever. What if?
Mm-hmm.
What if? Because you have to learn. The teachers, the real teachers in this world, Rich, are the kids, because they haven't been taught hate. They haven't been taught how to discriminate, how to segregate, how to separate. So if you can get kids on board and just let the parent, let's set up a shuttle service or something, and let's take these kids. Man,
well, I want to have you back on very soon on the show, and let's do some outreach, and then let's come back on the show.
Let's change the state.
Yeah, let's do it.
I'm down.
I think it could happen.
It will
if enough people get involved.
Absolutely. I appreciate you bringing me on. Thank you for this platform. This is really important.
Yeah.
And I hope that a lot of people are listening, that they're learning, that they're opening their
minds. It's NBA All-Star Weekend, and the city is moved all the homeless people, and we're hoping that more people we're shining a light on what's actually going on.
I'm going to go put detour signs away from all the activities so they have to go
There's
around.
There's a big protest tomorrow. I guess the Nomad Alliance is putting it on, and it sounds like a cool idea. There's going to be a huge homeless protest. But I got to run. Riley's freaking out. So.
Okay, well, let's go.
But thanks for being on. Thanks for everybody for watching. If you want to be a bigger part of Utah Stories, you can go to utahstories.com. Subscribe to our magazine, but even more importantly, tell me your Venmo.
Black Lives for Humanity group on Facebook.
Your Venmo is...
I'm on TikTok somewhere. I can't remember the name of it. I'll have to get that memorized. My Venmo is The Fighting Queen, and I also have a Cash App that's The Fighting Queen as well.
The Fighting Queen.
Absolutely.
Cool. All right. Sounds great. All right.
All right,
Thanks for
let's
coming
go.
on. Have a great weekend.
You too.